We have 2 folks who will need to.
We have to do it exactly this way because I'm bad.
Do what comes to you.
Yay,
It's better to teach something that's in your heart than it is to struggle to teach something that's not. Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
you don't want to bury it.
Well, it's a good practice to learn sort of a standard ABC.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And also remember that plastic quality of your brain of learning something and articulating it.
I'm an old dog, though.
I'm an old dog.
So I want to start just with, let's just do the quarter salutation with so hum, or yes, quarter salutation with so hum, just a couple times together to get it going. Do you want me to teach it or you want to?
You teach it.
Okay.
I think you're dying
to. Start in Tadasana. I taught it on Tuesday. Bring the hands in prayer mudras in front of the heart. Have a light smile on your lips. Resonating with the vibration of the universe. So what we're going to do is, in the forward fold, we'll say so hum. We'll do flat back. Inhale, exhale, so hum. Inhale the standing, hands to prayer mudra, so hum. As you're ready, let the breath go. Inhale the arms up overhead. Forward fold, so hum. So hum. Let it all out. Take a breath here. Let it go. With the next inhale, flat back, look up. So hum, forward fold. So hum. Inhale the standing. Hands to heart, so hum. So hum. One more time, just like that. Inhale up. So hum. Inhale, flat back. So hum. To standing. So hum. Close the eyes, take breaths. Bring on the sky thing. Go first.
Hands, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Yes.
Oh no, sorry, do the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Inhale, left foot back, right foot back, plank. Inhale here. Exhale, all the way to the floor. Let out the toes. Inhale, chest up. Okay. Exhale, to the floor. Inhale, curl the toes. Toes, push up to down dog. Inhale, left foot forward. Right foot forward. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up. Look up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Namaste.
Thank you. Who's next? Inhale the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, look up, and flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, step the right foot back, left foot back, plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale, cobra up dog. Exhale, lower down. Inhale to downward dog. Inhale, step the left foot forward, right foot forward, into forward fold. Inhale, look up with the flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, the arms up. Exhale, arms come down, hands come to that side. Nice, thank you. Hands on, time to rock it.
Inhale, arms up. Exhale, swan dive down to forward fold or Uttanasana. Look behind you if you want. Inhale up to parallel. Exhale back to forward fold. Inhale, right leg back. Left leg back into plank. Lower yourself down into chaturanga. Untuck the toes. Inhale up into bhujangasana or cobra. Lower back down. When you're ready, exhale. Inhale into downward facing dog. Breathe here. When you're ready, step that right foot forward, left foot forward. Drop down into Uttanasana or forward fold. Inhale up to parallel. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive all the way up. Hands together into prayer mudra.
Take a few breaths here. Feel the body resonating and then opening. Now starting on the scar, expanding in all directions. Leaving space. One more time to be even. I'll lead us. Inhale, arms up. Reach through the fingertips. Exhale, melt forward. Uttanasana. Let the head hang heavy. Inhale, flat back, look up. Halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees, hands to the mat, step or jump back, plank pose. Lower yourself down to the ground. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, release. As it makes sense to you, press back, downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here. Look between the hands, bend the knees, step or jump the feet forward. Forward fold. Halfway, looking up. Lengthen the spine through the crown of the head. Back to the forward fold. You can always micro bend the knees. Inhale, reverse swan dive. All the way to standing. Reach up and gather the hands at the heart. And release. Very nice. One thing for everybody to always be aware of is any direction you're giving when your head is down. It's hard to do, but you have to project your voice more when you're down, or when you're at the end of a movement that's going to be collapsing. So just be cognizant, you have to do kind of the reverse of what I think we normally do. We normally start the sentence with all the air, you know, Anton, da 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 da, and let it run out. And instead, you need to save it so that you end the da 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 with more of the volume, right? And Lisa Ann and I will be
And you have
sticklers.
You have to experiment with it. Like I said, if you're going from plank pose, that's an inhale. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But to articulate when you're squeezing all these muscles to stay in plank, sometimes you have to exhale, inhale again in the plank. Though you've told everybody to hold that
To do a different breath.
Do a different breath. When you go into down dog, the issue is more that your voice is going behind you, right? And that dynamic is play with it, because you may be able to articulate better with an inhale, or you may be able to push the air out as you exhale that breath out and see if you can get those words to flow out on an exhale. Because there's a dynamic between tension and relaxation for the teacher that's completely different for the student.
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm doing a practice. Teaching
it, exactly, exactly.
Not a practice.
So just be cognizant that will be something that Lisa Ann and I will continually mention. Everybody here, I heard every word that everybody said. There were a couple words that were a little bit towards the end of the breath, where I could still hear them, but if we had been in a bigger room, I couldn't have. So just be aware of that. So now let's go to hold on. Yeah, C. No, C.
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 No lunge?
So C is no flat back.
Right.
The lunge takes place of the flat back. You go to plank, and then you do inchworm, knees, chest, chin, right? And then you come back through, again, no flat back. You come through the lunge, and then you step the feet forward.
And
Right,
it's
so
the
number
same
C.
knee that goes back, that
Comes forward.
Okay, so we're
Exactly.
holding a lunge,
Right,
not
left, left.
just.
That's why
That-
I
that's
remember
it,
it.
yeah.
It's right, left, left.
It's like
You know.
the hokey pokey.
Yeah.
Put your right foot in, put your right foot
Yeah.
out, put your right foot in, shake it out about. You know, the hokey pokey is a shaking.
There you go.
That's what it's all about.
My friend just learned it, so we do it like every day.
Nice.
He's a little tired.
tired.
He does a cute little.
He does, he gets all into it.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay.
Mhm.
So who's ready to tackle it first?
And this is with the drop the knees,
Knees,
drop
chest,
knees, chest,
chin, or knees, chest, nose, inchworm.
Okay, and okay, then you let your.
And you're allowed to pause. You're allowed to look at your paper if you need to. You're allowed to take a breath. You can tell everybody, breathe. It's a great
Because I
pause.
need to breathe.
Because I need to breathe. I need a minute.
I did it today just to be like, what am I gonna do next? Oh yeah, that's right.
2 breaths here.
Yeah.
Little bit extra time.
Do you?
I'm trying to memorize them, so one. I
Yeah.
want.
It's fine. I'm
I
gonna
wanna
make sure you
screw
don't
up.
see it.
Sometimes it does make it worse if you look at it. Sometimes it makes
know.
it better. So, you want to go first, then, Anton?
Sure.
Okay.
Inhale the arms up. And exhale down into forward fold or Uttanasana. Go ahead and inhale that right foot back. And wait a minute. This is B or C? C.
C.
I have a question.
No, it's
Oh, it's okay.
In this, do we come up or do we stay
It's
down?
at your discretion. So if you're teaching a beginning class, don't go up. If it's the first time you've gone into the series and you're warming up, don't go up. Usually my first round, I stay down or I drop the knee down.
Oh, okay.
And then usually my second or third round, I'll say hands to the top of the knee or open the arms up for my intermediate or advanced students. Beginning students, we never go up with the heel off of the mat because it's too, they don't have the strength yet. That Good, okay.
Yeah.
So we've got which foot forward, left foot?
left foot
right,
forward,
right foot
yeah,
back.
right foot back.
Okay.
And go ahead and come up on your hands on your thigh. If you feel comfortable, put your arms behind you, held onto those elbows for a good chest opener. Take a deep inhale and exhale. When you're ready, inhale the arms up, down towards the mat, onto the mat by your feet, and bring that left foot back into plank. Drop those knees, chest, chin. Scoop that ice out of the ice machine for that martini margarita later. Come up into Bhujangasana. And drop down like you smell a little drum on the floor. Tuck those feet back in. Push yourself up into downward facing dog. And then when you're ready, go ahead and step forward with your right foot between your hands. Come up. Put your hands either on the thigh, or you can hold on to your elbows behind you to get the chest opener. And breathe. Inhale. And exhale. When you're ready, inhale the arms up. Go ahead and drop your hands down to your feet. Step that left foot forward. Come into forward fold, or Uttanasana. And when you're ready, inhale the arms up in reverse swan dive. And exhale into Pram Mudra. And I ran out of breath.
Good, but we heard you.
Yeah.
I heard that. Nobody would.
That gave me a
I
lot
was
of
just trying to break it up.
I just want the olives.
There you go.
You know, and humor is so beautiful because if you can make people laugh in your yoga class, that is like they're doing the yoga pose, they're getting the endorphins and the benefit in the body, and then you've just taken it to the next level where now they've got the laughing on top of the movement. So I love it. I know some styles are like very,
But I feel like for
yeah.
beginners, it's almost kind of like you become more comfortable.
Yes,
You don't feel so
exactly.
like by the book. You're able to kind of
Exactly.
loosen
Like,
up.
oh, this can actually be a little fun. You know? So I love it. Love it. Okay. Who's gonna go next?
Do the baby style here. Okay.
Mhm.
Hands to heart center. Breathe in. When you're ready, raise your hands overhead. Inhale. Slight look up. Exhale. Forward fold. Uttanasana. Inhale the left foot back into lunge. Drop the knee. Come up. Maybe hands on the thigh. Breathe here. Roll the shoulders back. On your next inhale, bring your hands down. Step the right foot back into plank. Drop the knees. And on your exhale, drop your chin and your chest. On your inhale, roll out the feet. Bring up the chest slightly. Keep looking at the floor. Lengthen the back and the neck. Exhale down. Breathe here. Inhale onto the knees. Tuck the toes. Down dog. 2 breaths here. Let the breath come into the hips, into the lower back. Pedal out the feet. Whatever feels good. On your next inhale, bring your left foot forward. Right foot forward. Uttanasana. Exhale here.
It's lunge.
Oh. Okay. Wait a minute. Left foot
Left foot
forward.
right foot
In
back.
lunge. Yeah, right foot back. Drop the knee. And bring your hands to the thigh. Breathe here. Sorry about that. I was feeling so good. When you're ready, drop your hands.
Remember, there's always the phrase, I meant to do that.
Yeah. And bring your right foot forward. Exhale into Uttanasana. Inhale, hands to the sky. Look up slightly. Hands together to the heart. Exhale, namaste.
Good job.
I like the breathing in the hips thing.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
reminded me to roll my hips up and
Yeah. I like that
Yeah.
too. And you know, and part of teaching, I mean, you know, it happens to me where the student will be like, did you forget something? And I'm like, oh, the other side or whatever, you
Yeah.
know? So part of it is being graceful about it too, is being like, you know, what, like you said, like.
Right, I would have gone, see, my practice is I do one side and then I come all the way up.
And then you go to the other side.
Just to make it a longer practice.
It's interesting, if you're not doing salutations, but you're linking a series of poses together, I have forgotten to put a pose in. I haven't forgotten all of them, but I'll forget a pose. And I'll be in the middle of something else completely, and I'll remember that I forgot that pose. The last time I did it though, it completely blew out of my, it's like if somebody blew out a flame, because I didn't add it in. I was like, you need to add this in. And I told them I was going to add it.
And then you couldn't remember.
I didn't even add it in.
Talk about it, yeah, let's just talk about it, remember it. Yeah, it's kind of great.
Yoga brain is yoga brain.
Yeah,
It happens
okay.
when you teach too.
Go ahead and stand in Tadasana, feet together, or hip width apart. Inhale, the arms overhead. Exhale to forward fold. Uttanasana. On the next inhale, step the right foot back. You can drop the knee if you like. Put your hands on your thigh. Take a breath here. On your next inhale, frame your foot and step the left foot back into plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin. Inhale, up to cobra or up dog. Exhale, tuck the toes into downward dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, step the right foot forward. You can drop the knee down. Come up to your hands on the thigh. Take a breath here. On the next inhale, frame your foot. And step the left foot forward into forward fold. Inhale, the arms up. Exhale, hands come to heart center.
Thank you. Excellent articulation and volume and pace.
Yeah.
It's smooth. I'm sure once I get more comfortable with it, then I'll add in like a little.
Right.
Yeah, I go to a yoga class over with fitness, and she always adds these little things. I'm like, once I get more comfortable.
Yeah.
Right now, she's by the book.
Yeah. Really nice volume and articulation. I heard everything that you said. Everything was clear. I loved how you said frame your foot with your hand. That was great descriptive word. Really nice. One side note just about this sun salutation. Obviously, you don't take beginners through this. You need to teach them the parts of it. But if people are in a lunge and you want them to step their back foot forward, that can be a danger zone for the inner groin thigh. So unless someone is experienced and you feel like they're strong enough, you have to direct them to hop their foot in first and then step it forward, or step your feet together. Because especially if they're in a really back far lunge here, and then they're going to try to look at all of the pressure here, and they don't know yet. What I do when I'm here is I shift my weight back, right, and then I spring it forward.
Okay.
They don't know that. They haven't played around with it. So you have to tell them, that if you're in a really deep lunge, bring the foot back forward, hop the back foot forward a little bit, and then step the foot forward. Yeah? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, we need one more time with the left foot back. Who wants to do it?
I have to do it because I
Okay.
messed it up. And I'll probably mess it up again.
That's okay.
I'll just do what I do. Okay. Mountain pose, roll the shoulders back, take a nice cleansing breath. Inhale your arms up, look up slightly. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, left foot back. Drop the knee. Bring your hands up to your thigh. Hold here for just a moment. Roll the shoulders back. Try not to crunch the low back. Extend the back. On your next exhale, bring your hands down. Take your right foot back to down dog. And let's take 3 breaths here. Breathing into the low back, extending the shoulders, reaching with the fingers forward. Maybe pedaling the feet a little bit. Bring those hips up. Let it feel good. On your next inhale, bring your left foot forward. Drop the right knee and come up. And again, bring the shoulders back a little. Widen the hips and the shoulders. Open the chest. On your next inhale, bring your hands down. Bring your toes up. And exhale. Slide the right foot forward. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale. Arms up overhead. Front gaze up. Hands to heart center. And this is all.
No, you missed plank, inchworm, up dog. But you knew you missed
I
it.
don't care. I guess I don't care. It just felt good.
It felt good. And you know what? It's better to missuppose that you don't have to do on the other side to be even than it is to missuppose on one side. Like people wouldn't necessarily know that you had missed plank, inchworm, up dog.
Yeah.
But they would know if you missed the left side of the lunge.
Yeah.
It's okay.
At least the know-it-alls
card.
would know. The people that don't know, they're going to be grumbling when you make them switch legs. Because they do, because it's just like, you know, when you guys started in here and I'm like, because I'm the one that's like the force behind, change your legs. And that dynamic is so hard to grok around because both hips don't work the same. And new people are like, but this hip doesn't like this movement, you know, and it really doesn't, you know. People, that whole movement of stepping forward to be back here and to hop a little bit, some people can't really ever do that. They have to go back.
Yeah.
They have to hop from front
So when you're
to
asking
back.
people to bring their feet forward and saying, you know, bring your feet together, is that like what you were saying? Is that?
Well, I mean, again, it depends on the student that I'm teaching, the level that I'm teaching. If I have an intermediate active class, then I say step the back foot forward, or I even say step or jump your feet forward, or you know, whatever it might be. But if I'm teaching beginners, then I'm going to break it down and I'm going to try to give them a direction. I might say, here's what I would probably do. I might say step the back foot forward. If that's uncomfortable or difficult for you, then hop the back foot forward and bring it together, or step the front foot back. I would give it as a variation.
Okay.
And then I'd watch people. I'd look into the corner of my eye, and if everybody's like, bam, I'm like, okay, I don't need to say it again. But if there's somebody down there who's like this, you know.
This is the grace of teaching salutations in blocks, is you can give that information because they'll forget it. But when you talk them through it, because once you've shown them where they're going, and you go, I'm going to watch, because you'll get people they'll be up here and they're waiting for you forward fold, and all you have to do is go forward fold.
And then they all do it.
And it starts to build that loop because you want to see what they're doing. And if you see people struggling, stepping a leg back or stepping a leg forward, then you can tell them, maybe some people may have to put the knee down to hop it forward. You know, they may have to come more into a squat to get the hips.
Yeah.
So it's good to take a step back and kind of watch that.
And so just to make it clear what Lisa Ann's talking about doing, that's why with beginners, you don't necessarily do the whole thing. You do part 1, inhale up, exhale down, just the arms. Part 2 is inhale up, forward fold, knees bent, roll yourself up, open it up. Forward fold, roll yourself up. Part 3, forward fold, flat back up.
Right. Yeah.
Part 4, hands to the thighs, flat back, all the way up. Next one is here, and maybe practicing lunge. You know, try to step back to lunge and then forward. You see what I'm saying? You start just add one little.
It's not just one, just throwing it out there right in the beginning,
Unless
warming
it's
everything up.
Exactly, unless it's an intermediate class that is ready and prepared for, you know, a sun salutation variation.
Because again, there are people that are going to be loose and flaccid. There are going to be people that are tight and tense. And then there's going to be people that are going to be able to rock it, but they may have sloppiness in their core. Right? Because that sloppiness in the core, those people, what I would recommend is get them to breathe into their chest. Place their hands there for a moment, and just while they're in that warrior, when they come up into that lunge. Breathe into your hand. I did that today, and I got two 12-year-olds to breathe into their chest. Do you know how hard it is to get a 12-year-old to breathe into their chest? And one of them was a dancer, and the other one was an athlete. And the athlete had legs that went on forever, and she had a short torso. And when I said, breathe into your chest, all of a sudden she grew an inch. So it's always interesting to see what happens to the pattern.
I'm going to move on because we want to stay warm. So we're going to talk about danger zones and injury prevention. And we're going to go into some of the poses that Lisa Ann and I consider to be danger zones and danger poses. So we want to be warm because injury prevention warm-up is critical. You do not, I had one teacher once, I hired her, she came here, I came into her class, the first pose she did was camel pose of the class. Okay? You've got to warm up the body first. It is critical to pay attention to the weather. Lisa Ann taught me this. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to do it. But Lisa Ann goes, Annalisa, if it's cold outside, it's going to take more to warm up the body. You're going to want to do maybe some different poses or some modifications than if it's a beautiful day out and you got hot yoga in a room temperature room. So you have to pay attention to the warm up and to the weather. So grab your pen and paper and write down real quick, and then we're going to go on to it because we want to stay warm, and I'm going to actually close the door so to help with that. So here's our danger zones. First, shoulders. Next is necks with pressure. So it's like neck and then in parentheses with pressure. 3, knees. Our beloved knees. 4 is the back, but it's specifically twist and lift. And I will go through all this, but it's twisting with lifting. Next is the back bends. So the one before is like backs twisting, and the next one is like back bends. The next is backs again. Forward folds. And the last one is groin / sciatica. So I'll go through them again. Shoulders, neck with pressure, knees, twists and lifts with your back, back bends with your back, low back, forward folds, and groin / sciatica.
Does that also include hamstring area?
Forward folds, yes.
Yeah, the groin, it goes
sorry.
it goes into the inner thigh also. So
Yeah.
it would be the inner thigh groin, but the hamstring will be affected.
Probably forward folds.
And for people that are really, really tight and intense, it's probably going to be directly in that hamstring. The inner thigh they won't be able to get to right away.
Yeah, and I actually, when preparing for the class, was reading some things, and like one of the things from one of the handouts I think we're giving you is like, it says a lot of people who have hamstring issues, injuries, it's actually a sciatica injury.
Well, I don't know, it's so connected.
Everything's connected. So we're going to start with, hold on, where's my list? With what we're doing first. Oh, we are doing shoulders first? Okay.
Yes.
So, with your piece of paper, write down, these are the cards we're going to be going over that you want to be reviewing. Card 67. Oh, you don't have to pull out the cards. We're not going to teach from the cards. Sorry. I just want to tell you the numbers. Card 67. Card 69. card 19, 39, 36, 47, 57, 56, 54, and 55. We'll be briefly mentioning 84, 85, 87, and 88 for this. Is that enough? Think we can cover it for our break?
That's our just shoulders.
No, those are all of the danger zone poses that we're going to be covering. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that
Almost
doesn't,
every pose could be a danger zone.
Yes,
Just
for
about
sure.
everything.
and these are only the danger zone poses I teach. There's some poses in the yoga toolbox I don't even teach because they're too much of a danger zone for me in my body and for my comfort level to teach other people. So these are the danger zones I teach. I don't teach locust pose. I don't teach.
You don't
fish
teach
pose.
locust?
No, it doesn't work for my body, so I don't teach it, right? Okay, so let's come to standing. We're gonna do blade pose first, which is a shoulder pose. And this is also a cousin of what's called the yoga, the seal of yoga, and it's also a cousin of reverse prayer hands, right? Prayer behind your back, right? So this is really only appropriate for intermediate and advanced students who have a serious range of motion ability in their shoulders. So I want to teach you how to teach it to beginners, and then we'll work up to a more advanced type positioning. So for beginners, and everybody let's do this together, it's feet are hip width apart, knees are bent, because that helps protect the low back. Bring the hands behind you and see if you can touch your fingertips and grab your fingertips. This is for beginners. That's it, right? This might be a lot for them. Guys with big muscles, this is it, okay? The next thing is, if they can, is to interlace the fingers, but usually the palms are not touching. Everybody sees how my palms are not touching, right? Palms touching is more advanced. Can you feel that? How that's a different variation.
So you're saying with the bent elbow?
Bent elbow. Absolutely bent elbow. Yeah. So Lisa got out the belt, so we have to use and grab one so we can see the other. Because some people can't even grab their fingertips.
They can't get their hands because they're like this.
Oh, yeah.
So they're here.
So here's with the belt. Rolling the shoulders back, working on opening through the collarbone, knees bent and elbows bent, right? And here's the work here is trying to lengthen the arms, bend the elbows. This is the work here, okay? The practice for that is bring the belt in front of you, hold on wide to the belt. Don't have like holding on for dear life. Hold wide, light hold. Bring it in front of you. Inhale, belt comes up overhead. Exhale, belt goes back behind you.
And you can adjust. I'm letting my hand slide this.
Yeah.
Inhale up, exhale down in front. And you have to, we're doing it a little fast here because we've got a lot to cover, but you go slow and you see who has to bend their elbow to get the belt around, right? Because the idea would be that the arm would be straight. They may have to let a bunch of belt out, but that also tells you the tightness of the shoulder, because if somebody's like, they can do it like here, I mean, you know, it's crazy. Most people have to be out here. And this is for people who have tight shoulders. This is the homework assignment I give them to go home, take a belt or a scarf, and practice this with the breath. And then the next step is you inhale the belt up in front, bring it back to the place where you feel tension or tightness, pause here, and breathe. Soften the jaw, relax the throat, take another breath here, and then release the belt all the way back and down. Inhale the belt up, exhale the belt all the way down in front.
The other thing that the belt does is if they've got tension up on that belt, that means their shoulders are working a little bit differently. And as long as they're going slowly, because you may feel heat that you hadn't noticed before when you just brought your arms back behind you. That range of motion creates a heat in that back area, which is creating more circulation.
Thank you. So there's other variations with the belt, but we're working to something at this point. So those are the beginning things to teach. The beginning/intermediate is bring your hands behind you and interlace the fingers. Whether you can press the palms together or not is okay. Roll the right shoulder up to the ear and back behind, draw the right elbow towards midline. Knees are micro bent here. Keep the right elbow towards midline and roll the left shoulder up to the ear like you're shrugging it up. Roll the left shoulder back and squeeze the left elbow towards midline, right? Do it again. Right shoulder rolls to the ear. Right elbow comes closer to midline. Left shoulder comes up to the ear. Left shoulder comes to midline. Stay here and breathe. Everybody stay here and breathe. This is also the beginning of shoulder stand, right? Because this is where the hands would be in shoulder stand. Close to it.
Shoulder stand.
Yeah. Right? Okay. And then release the arms down to the sides. You can do the same thing with the belt. To practice, right? The arms are belt, hands are on the belt. Roll one shoulder back. Roll the other shoulder back. Right? It's the same idea, but definitely more gentle. Yeah.
Do you think they'd be more comfortable if they have tight shoulders to allow the hands to drop?
Yeah.
So the elbows aren't pointed back so much?
Exactly.
Okay. But
And
you're
I
still
wouldn't-
getting the
I don't
benefit
even
of opening the chest.
I don't even think I would give that as a direction to someone who needed to use a belt. I would let their body dictate which is best for them, what's going to be natural, and I would watch and see. Because if they can roll the shoulders and lengthen the arm, it's fine. If they bend the elbow and they go here, I'm not so worried about that. I'm working on the shoulder range of motion. Yeah. Okay, so put the belt down. Let's go to the next level. Interlace the fingers behind. See if you can press the palms together. Roll the right shoulder back. Bring the right elbow to midline. Roll the left shoulder back. Bring the left elbow to midline. Taking a breath.
It doesn't feel good to me at all.
This is why it's a danger zone. Does everybody feel the tension? Yeah. It's either going to be in the chest, the collarbone, the shoulders, the thoracic spine. There's going to be some tension somewhere. Once again, roll the right shoulder back, draw the right elbow in, left shoulder back, left elbow in. Now, knees are micro bent. Draw the fists towards the floor, lengthening the arms. Don't do it if it doesn't feel comfortable. The next step, this is an advanced step, so don't feel compelled to do it here or anywhere, is to draw the hands away from the body. And you basically make an upside down blade of grass with your arms. If everybody looks at my arms, you see how it's an upside down blade of grass? And release. Okay? Yes, please.
There's a movement here. If the elbows are bent, you can place the knuckles right, especially if your hands are closed, you can place the knuckles on the sacrum and you can lift your rib cage up. And then you can pull down. And then this is shoulder stand, bridge. This is also that movement of upward movement for wheel, for Uttanasana, camel pose. This movement helps you become aware of where your sacrum is in space by using your own touch, by placing it on the sacrum. And I use a breath to lift my chest up, but then I try to keep that traction after I exhale.
And then release. Okay, how's everybody feel with that? Yeah? So, can everybody see and feel where if somebody had tight shoulders, if somebody hadn't been practicing recently, wasn't warm enough, where if a teacher said, Interlace your fingers behind your back, lengthen your arms, and forward fold, where that's a recipe for injury. Okay?
Isn't it like if someone once dislocated their shoulder, the chances of them popping it back out?
Is more likely.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you might not know that. So that's a pose, the arm pose is one that you really want to do, intermediate, advanced students only, and you want to, if you're going to teach it, you want to practice what I told you, where you hold the fingertips or interlace the fingers without the palm together and practice rolling the shoulders back. Because if they're here, then this, and then lengthening the arms is just going to cause trouble. When you look behind them, they need to be here, right? Do you see the difference? Right.
It's basically shoulder cleavage. The other component would be is before you make them roll their shoulders, I would actually make them shrug. That would be the other thing, is make them do a shrug without hands linked together.
Yeah.
Especially if they're like this.
Yeah. So let's add the forward fold if you want. Now there's variations, and you need to find what's right for you. Nobody's allowed to leave class and go, well, we did all these danger poses and then I went home and I really hurt. No. No. We're showing you the levels so that you can pick, and for yourself and then also for your students. So if you want to, the variation with the belt is here. Right? Variation. Variation. This is a great variation.
And her back is flat.
Yeah.
You're aiming to hopefully get that person into a flat back position. This is better than that completely drop of the shoulders, because they have to keep activated.
Yeah. So bring your feet hip width apart, knees micro bent. Straight legs is an advanced variation, right? Bring your fingertips behind you. Either grab the fingertips, interlace the fingers, press the palms together, use a belt, whatever works for you. Roll the right shoulder back, right elbow to midline. Left shoulder back, left elbow to midline. Now, I like to go into the forward fold first and then lengthen my arms. So fold from the hips, allow the fingertips to gravitate up towards the ceiling, and if it works for you, lengthening the arms. Take 3 breaths. Release the hands towards the hips, the tailbone, roll yourself up. And release. So here's the next piece to be aware of, are the shoulders to the ears, or are they releasing back? So I'll demonstrate both, and then you can try both and see what you like. So, forward fold, my shoulders are to my ears. Do you see that? Okay. Rolling my shoulders back, lifting my hands up to the ceiling. Do you see that? That was a little bit what Lisa Ann was talking about. It doesn't matter how far forward the chest is, per se, except to be aware of somebody's ability, flexibility. I can go all the way down in this. It's not a problem for me, but this is definitely a more appropriate position for teaching it to a class. And so even though I can go all the way down, if I'm teaching it, I don't do it. I do Lisa Ann, right?
I'm like, this is where I'm happy and where I can still
And this is more appropriate for teaching it.
Because think about it. Go ahead, hold this and say forward fold. Forward fold. You lose your breath halfway down.
So try it, forward fold, and then try let the shoulders come to the ears, and then try rolling the shoulders back and lifting the hands towards the ceiling, right? Play with it and feel where your body is with this. See how it feels for you. And then when you're ready, unhinge. Come all the way up. So what do you like? Shoulders to your ears or shoulders away, hands to the ceiling?
Shoulders and
None of it.
Yeah,
I like both.
right? Guys,
What kind of
this
discomfort
is-
do you have?
Right in that pin, like right there,
Mhm.
like in that,
Do it
and
with
then
the strap.
back, like
Do it right now, just do
there.
it with the strap. Really, really quickly, set yourself up, do it with the strap so you're not in that tight position.
Like holding it this way or this way?
Check it out.
Okay. Yeah, see that? There.
yeah, so try the
feel that?
other hand. Try the other hand hold then.
And it's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I can't even
You can't even
do
do it.
that one.
So you may need even more space so that you're actually sort of swimming back this way
Okay.
and that the palms are in this position. So you may have to give yourself that slack.
Yeah, so this
I
is
think it's
exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's-
Exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
important to also be okay with sharing with your students that you can't do something.
Yeah.
This doesn't work for me because of my shoulders.
Yeah.
Or you demonstrate it with the belt, and that's
belt,
awesome.
okay.
And that's where 90% of your students will be,
Oh, okay.
is there. Yeah? So prayer mudras, reverse prayer mudras, how you get to there with your students, first of all, is hands to the hips or hands to the low back here. Because this is the beginning, right, is to be able to bring the shoulders back and around. You can try, then the next thing is just see if people can touch their fingertips, right?
Does that hurt in that shoulder?
Then it's stretch and it's discomfort from there on, but
How's it now?
better.
Better?
Yeah.
So I'm coming up behind you, just so you know. Because we have somebody that is not happy about this and giving this alternative. You can, if it's a guy, you can pull on their back and go, I'm just pulling on your back. If it's a woman, you use your palm and just give a little bit of pressure, or tell them to take their other hand and push
Push
that,
it a little bit.
push that pec in the direction that that arm is going.
So if Anton was a new student, he came into class, showed up at a beginning/intermediate level class, an active class, and you went through sun salutation and stuff, and you didn't really know him, and he was new to the practice, and you go interlace your fingers behind your back and inhale the arms up, he would have a very good chance of hurting the shoulder. So, you know, it's a good point to make. Now with the prayer mudras, the next thing is just to let the fingertips slide up. And it's a big stretch for a lot of people in the hands and the palms, and Anton, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
This is not, it's
I
not
touch
for,
my
Not a happy.
yeah.
And then there's an elbow position. The elbow can either be forward or the elbow can be contracted back. Right? This movement. And my thumb's right in my shoulder blade so I can actually sense my shoulder blade moving. If you
Yeah.
get your hand up that
Yeah.
high. Yeah.
Same here.
I mean, would
And
you,
release.
would you practice
Gomukhasana
Yeah.
arms, yeah.
just to,
This movement going this
just to
way.
kind of get the
And
hand
it's also,
over the back?
it's what Karina taught on Thursday night's class, which is, you know, just stretching out the wrist and the fingertips on both sides. It's definitely, it's wrist health and flexibility. It's hand health and flexibility for sure, but it's related into the shoulders. Yeah. So this and so the what they call this a separate leg head to knee pose, which is part of Uttanasana. I call pyramid pose, is where this arm position also comes into play, right? Intermediate, advanced. My beginning variation is, everybody do it, hands to hips, left foot forward, right foot back. Right foot is at an angle towards the corner, left foot is pointed right in front of me. Hands to the hips. Inhale, lift the heart up towards the ceiling, lift the chest. Exhale, fold from the hips, come to a flat back. Breathe. This is building strength in the legs, right? Bend the front knee, come back up with the chest and step the feet together. That's my beginning, because I don't even want them straight leg trying to step together. I'm going to bend the knee and step them forward. That's it. And actually, I'll take it one step forward. My beginning variation before that is at the wall. This is it, right? Where I'm working my legs, my right heel back to the ground, my left thigh up into the hip, my hands are on the wall, I'm able to create a long back body, bending the front knee, step the feet together, right? So, advanced is to go totally into the forward fold. So let's do the other leg first with the beginning. Right foot forward, left foot back, hands to the hips. Left heel is active, left thigh is active. Inhale, lift the heart up. Exhale, fold from the hips, come to a flat back, and it might not even be a right angle. Mine's not a right angle. Lifting the heart. Lisa Ann's demonstrating with the block. Bend the front knee, come up to standing, and step the back foot forward. Okay? Can I have both of your blocks? Let me do with both. So intermediate is okay, or hands on a chair. And then step the feet together. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Advanced, hands on the hips, left foot front, right foot back. Inhale, lift through the heart. Exhale, forward fold. Find the flat back, and then if you choose, fold all the way forward, bring the fingertips to the ground or the front shin or blocks. Take a breath. Next step, if you choose, well, no, let's come up to standing. Hands back to the hips, flat back, press into the feet, active legs. Torso comes up, bend the front knee, step the feet together. Any questions about that? Okay.
So advanced, you're just having them keep the front leg firm with that bend.
Correct. Both legs are straight, and the difference is that they can go further forward in the pose. Okay. So the next part, if you want to do it, you either use the belt or not, is to have the arms involved. So right foot forward, left foot back. Here you start with the arms first, interlace the fingers, roll the right shoulder back, right elbow to midline, left shoulder back, left elbow to midline, squeezing the shoulders together. Forward fold and let the arms lengthen and come overhead. Again, the shoulders can be at the ears, or you can lift the hands more towards the ceiling. To come out of the pose, swing the arms back towards the tailbone, lift and lengthen through the collarbone and come all the way up. Release the arms by the sides, bend the front knee, feet together. Other side. Left foot forward, right foot back. Is that okay for everybody? Okay, so both legs are straight. Again, micro bend for people who have hyperflexibility. Interlace the fingers behind the low back. Roll the left shoulder back, left elbow to midline, right shoulder, right elbow to midline. Forward fold, active legs. That's the foundation of the pose. And let the arms extend behind you and up. Sweep the arms back towards the tailbone. Lift from the chest. Strong legs. Come up to standing. Release the arms. Step the feet together. Right? So this is a danger zone. And one of the reasons it's a danger zone is because I had somebody hurt themselves with this pose in one of my classes. If you teach yoga long enough, someone's going to do something. They're going to do it when you're not paying attention. They're going to do it after class. They're going to do it while you're directing one thing and they're doing something else. It's going to happen. And I directed people to use the belt. I directed people to just hold the fingertips or nothing at all, bend the knees, and go into a forward fold. And I'm doing this here. I'm demonstrating it, and I'm demonstrating this. I think I was demonstrating this. I come up and I look over, and this woman who had not been in yoga for about a year is in full yoga mudra forward fold. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, come out of the pose, And afterwards, she's like, oh, I'm fine. She hurt her shoulder. Had a frozen shoulder, had to go to physical therapy because it hurt, and then she babied it, and she didn't use it at all. She didn't go to the doctor. She thought it would be okay. Frozen shoulder, physical therapy.
Shoulders should never be babied. They have to have range of motion continually because the fascia just, it laces and laces. It's basically trying to create bone. And you just don't want to baby a shoulder. There has to be something going on. However micro movement it is.
Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. We're going to talk about necks with pressure. If in most yoga poses, there's really not any danger to the neck because most of the time the head is just like bobbled all on top of the body. So if you're doing, Virabhadrasana 1, even if you feel tight, it's not going to do damage to the neck, right? Even if I'm here and I'm looking over my finger, it might be tight, but when I come out of it, most of the time, unless there's like some serious injury type going on, where you really have a danger zone is where you have pressure to the neck in the pose, right? So what is this? This is plow. Yeah. This is shoulder stand. This is headstand. This is the rabbit pose with the seal of the yoga mudra, right? This pose here, where I've got my head on the floor.
Even bridge.
Yeah, you won't see me doing any of that.
Right?
And no neck work.
Right. So, but rabbit is, and not even necessarily with the seal of the mudra, but here. And these poses are fine. One of the biggest things is not turning the head while you're in the pose. The problem is when you're trying to teach it, the student wants to look and watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be a good teacher and say, come watch me. And you have to tell them, you have to warn them and say, do not move your head in this pose. Or what I say is, if you feel excessive pressure on your head in this pose, for example, the other one is thread the needle here, right? For beginners, I always, when I teach it, I show them that there's not any pressure in my head. It's on my shoulder, because inevitably what somebody does is this.
Yeah.
Right? And then I say, hand goes to the ground, one arm push up. It has nothing to do, because people are like trying to push up with the side of their head. Okay? So the neck, in most yoga circumstances, is not going to be an issue other than, stretching it, feeling tight, that sort of thing. The danger injury is when there's pressure on the neck in some capacity in the pose. Okay? So, we have, I think it's this packet here. We're not going to teach all of these at this point. Maybe in a couple of weeks, if we have time to go back to some of these poses, we will. But we want to mention them and talk about them in the danger pose relation. So bridge, because again, you don't want to be looking right and left when you're in bridge pose, which is the beginning and foundation of shoulder stand. Same thing, don't want to be moving your head around. Plow, halasana. I don't teach plow anymore. It's for my body, it's too uncomfortable on my back. I can't teach it to someone else who might have a back issue. Neck issue, yeah. Headstand, you can't move the head and neck in this pose. And handstand. Handstand, even though there's not pressure on the head, you feel it when you're in the pose. There's a lot of energy around the head and neck in handstand.
Yeah.
And into the shoulders. Whoa, holding yourself up. So let's start with bridge. Lisa Ann, you want to do bridge? And any comments or notes about any anatomical related elements of it that you want to share?
there's two different ways of doing it: feet narrow, feet wider than the hips. Ideally, the heels and the toes should be straight ahead. Ideally, the arms shouldn't be active barely at all in the beginning. Some people just press. Some people tuck before they press. And for a long time, I tucked, and now all I'm doing is pressing. And I know something inspired me to do this, because sooner or later, the higher you lift, the more you tuck. The tuck and the glutes and the hamstrings engage anyway.
So one comment insertion here
Yeah.
is when the hips are low, Lisa Ann can turn her head, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is when you get your hips up high, then there's more pressure in the neck, and then she shouldn't and can't. So you have to be conscientious of that, is that the student may think, oh, I can turn my head here because their hips are low and it's okay. And then all of a sudden they get their hips up high and try to do it. So it's really important that you specify when you're teaching people, don't turn your head when you do the pose, or keep the neck in a neutral position. Sorry, go ahead.
The other component that goes along with this is the higher the hips go, the more this whole midline center starts to open up, and you can see that I'm actually moving my shoulders closer. I'm still, my hands, I couldn't do anything with my hands if I wanted to right now at this point, because I'm focusing getting this to talk with the lower half of the body, because this part of the body has way more power in it than this part of the body. And the other thing that happens is the higher you go, the longer the neck may happen and the more the chin might dive in. And this was taught to me, I think, in Anusara yoga. Instead of lengthening the neck, lift the chin a little bit so that cervical curve, see my finger poking through?
Mm-hmm.
That cervical curve stays intact, and that I'm not experiencing this in my neck right now. As high as I am, this is not in my neck. I'm feeling it in my legs, my thighs, the hips, a little bit through here, but my neck, I don't even notice my neck. And as I was rolling down, I was going to turn my head. Ideally, if you teach this and you get people to watch you, this is what you do when you're done. You roll over and you sit up and then go, try it.
Try it.
Try it. And I may mention that I'm rolling over and sitting up so that I can watch you. I actually will tell a few people that way.
So come down to reclining, bend the knees, the soles of the feet to the mat, arms relaxing at your sides, find a neutral cervical position, and as you're ready, try lifting the hips up a little bit, releasing down. Try both ways. Try with the pelvic tilt, and then try just lifting, and experiment and play with your own breath. Take, let's say, 10 to 20 breaths to just play with this pose. Try it low, try it high. Try the feet close into the buttocks, try the feet further away from the buttocks. Pay attention to what is the moment when the sensation in the neck and the shoulders changes.
Yeah, as soon as you get that sensation of the fingers touching or reaching for the heels, if you like to do that movement, then relax your arms. Keep the focus in your legs and your hips until you start to get a sense of that breath lifting up into the chest and the shoulders heavying themselves to gravity. Because the only thing that's touching the ground right now is your feet and your shoulders. So be aware of how much energy is being distributed between those 4 points. And breathe in a little bit. And then if you're used to tucking the chin in, micro lift the chin. It's a micro movement. Just lift the chin so that cervical curve exists. Notice if the neck is more relaxed or more tense. Because again, cervical spine can have all kinds of different messages in it. Any comment?
I like that. I like this barely, because I've always been taught to tuck and lengthen the spine, which is an irritant for me with my C5.
Because I have a
So-
weird thoracic curve in my back and an almost nil lumbar curve in my back, one of the reasons I stopped tucking my tailbone is because I didn't like that. But there's a reasons to tuck. As I was demonstrating, I was like, I haven't felt that myself. So it's interesting how you can get sort of locked into your own pattern. So being able to like diversify in explanation is excellent because your practice and your pattern may be one thing. You want to be able to at least share those major tidbits of tuck the tailbone or just press into your legs until you feel your thighs and buttocks engage.
If you want to try lifting the hips up and try rolling the shoulders under, because that connects the shoulder to the neck in this pose, where because one variation is, as Anton's doing, is to interlace the fingers. Now it's interesting, Anton, you can do it here.
Here.
Yeah, it's comfortable like this.
And I think what's happening is your chest breathing is opening up that area. So you made this very long space in the solar plexus so that the psoas, quadratus lumborum, and all of those muscles are no longer pulling on the sternum and the chest.
It also feels better too, doing that micro
Lifting
check
that
with my
micro
chin
tip.
up. And I like that finger check.
Yeah, can you get your finger through there? Anything for you?
Feels good. Feels good. We like that.
This is a slight inversion.
Yeah.
My note on halasana is for beginners. So roll to your side and push yourself up to seated. Nobody taught me this, but I had to find it for myself because coming into halasana traditional ways does not work for my back. I told you I don't teach it. But beginner easy is reclining. I like to start from a modified Supta Baddha Konasana and lengthening my diamond. And coming here. Lengthening my diamond. And coming here. And what eventually happens is my tailbone comes up off the floor. Right? So it's almost like rocking into it instead of swinging back into it.
My version's from Happy Baby. You can lift that sacrum up, and I'm not even putting a lot of pressure in my legs, but my core can do that on its own. And then I can lift, and I'm still, there's very little pressure on my neck here. I can actually nod yes without actually aggravating my
Do
spine.
you see the difference between that and like this pose here, where the hips are literally over the shoulders, and or even curving. This one shows it curving, right? Okay. So danger zone, intermediate or advanced students only. Would be my recommendation. Or you start with a happy baby and you start with rocking, and that's the foundation of that. Everybody go to happy baby and rock.
Yeah, because the other thing
Good.
about Happy Baby is if people, like men, tend to lift their sacrum off the floor right away because of their center of gravity is a little bit higher for them. So when men lift their lower back up off the ground, the task when you see guys is lay your sacrum down on the floor for a moment and breathe into your belly. And then breathe into your chest. And then in Happy Baby, can you lift your sacrum up and just breathe there? Because that's the beginning of anything that's going to invert on your neck and your shoulders is breathing in that compressed state.
And then release. Roll over to your side, press yourself up. So does anybody in here do inversions? Headstand, shoulder stand, handstand.
Handstand, then supported shoulder.
Okay. So we may put these to the side and then come back to them as
You done
time permits.
Handstand and headstand?
Done a headstand, not a handstand.
So we've talked about necks with pressure. We're going to try to get through a couple more of these while we're still warm, and then we'll take a break. And then we'll go through other ones as we're kind of cooling down. Knees are next. Briefly, one thing, and I think we may have touched on it, I don't know if we did. When you are teaching a beginning class, people come in, there's a good chance that they're not going to be comfortable sitting on the ground. It will hurt them physically. It hurts me physically to sit on the ground. So you want to be respectful of that. They will not come back if they're miserable. They won't. So, you want to ask someone when they come in, are you comfortable sitting on the ground? Or you want to, like I do, I go through this whole rigmarole when I'm teaching. Get a blanket. If you want to put your legs here, if you want to lean back, I'll give them a bunch of variations, at least at first, to find a comfortable way to sit on the ground, okay? Now this is related to knees. We're going to show hero pose, also called thunderbolt, which is basically kneeling, and we're also going to talk about lotus pose, because these are knee danger zones.
Grab a block, just so you have a block.
You'll need a block, and I'd also like you to have a blanket. Antoine, do you mind tossing me one of those? Because I really like those blocks.
The foam.
Yeah, the little heavier duty ones, thank you. So Lisa Ann, why would lotus or hero pose be a danger zone for my knees?
Because the knee's not meant to rotate, it's just meant to do this. And the rotation, which will be reiterated before Monday, the rotation happens in here. And if this is as far as this goes, then you're not going to be doing Padmasana or Lotus. Hero pose is doable by way of a lot of injuries, but the props are important to help people find it.
Thank you. So the two danger areas for hero, or the issue areas, are the knees and the ankles. A lot of people can't do the pose because they literally cannot let the tops of their feet come to the ground. So the variation is with a blanket and allowing the toes to hang off the edge of the blanket so there's more room for them.
It could be as much as
It could be two
blankets.
blankets so they have room to hang the feet off.
It could be rolled blankets so that because people have that little flexibility there.
Yeah. The second is the knees. So if everybody comes up to kneeling and bring your big toes together behind you and your ankle bones together. Now, there's, of course, sitting back directly on your heels. Now, what do you do to prevent knee issues, and if somebody has a knee, that's talking back to them, it's to put the block on the heel and either sit back on the block, which feels there's an intense stretch on the ankle then. Yeah, exactly. Or move the block out of the way, take a blanket, if you have an extra one, or move it out of the way. Put the blanket on your heels, sit back on the heels that way, because you have a little bit extra space. Right?
And I'm using the roll blanket and the block in this position.
Oh, but that's ankles separated. We're ankles
Yeah.
together right
Oh,
now.
it's ankles together right now.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, this
Right.
is,
Yeah. Or in some studios where they have a lot of storage, they can use a bolster.
Oh, yeah.
And the bolster is really great to put, because then you have a huge pillow underneath, right? Some people will never be comfortable just kneeling like this, right? You can use, a bunch of bolsters. I've seen in Iyengar classes where people were literally like this, sitting down, working on this pose.
What is that?
Yeah, like 2 pillows under their buttocks.
But they're very dense. They're
Yeah.
usually about that big around, and they squish about that much
Yeah.
usually.
So now the next variation is where Lisa Ann was going, is come up to kneeling. The knees stay together, but then you separate the feet back behind you. The toes are still pointed back behind, and you take the block and put it in between your ankles. I can't do it, my blanket is in the wrong position. You put it in between the ankles, and you sit on the block. You can have the highest height, the medium height, or the lowest height.
You couldn't do this last year.
I know. I couldn't squat either. I know. The other thing is the bolster or a blanket.
Or 2 blankets. If you have frivolous blanket count, then use
So try a couple
blankets.
variations. Yeah, try a couple variations here. So you feel it, and then you are familiar where if you needed to do it with a student. This one's good for me, right here. Does everybody find one they're okay with? Where the knee isn't talking back to you. And then one of the really nice things is you take fists and press into the foot and give yourself a little massage here.
And for you, Anton, I'm just telling you because of the shoulder thing, this makes you longer. If you practice that lengthening and that breathing, this will probably get better
Oh, okay.
through here.
He's always had shoulder issues. It's weird.
You're a musician. Musicians
Yeah.
always have shoulder or wrist issues.
Yeah.
What is it? Les Paul, he broke his arm and they just set his hands to his hand
Yeah.
and play guitar.
It just happened.
That's what he wanted.
Just happened to take him a stand with his wrist. Carpal tunnel so bad they had to pin it all together. And then still play the tour regardless.
And then bring your fingertips forward, lift the heels, drop the hips off to the right or left, bring the arms out.
Some people actually just, they'll tap the ankles, tap the feet when they come out of this pose. That used to work for me. I'm not real fascinated by it now, but that actually felt good on the blanket.
When I go all the way back into it, I don't even feel it in my knees. I actually feel it more in my hips. Right here, but it actually kind of feels good until it gets to a point where it gets so hot.
Yeah.
It gets warm.
Warm. And the one of the Iyengar adjustments in this pose, if you want to go into the pose, Anton, is to take your fingertips at the bottom of the kneecap, not to the edge, right at the
Oh,
yeah,
right here.
and draw the skin up. Look at Anton's hands; he's doing it right. Draw the skin up and over the knees.
And towards the hinge of the thigh.
Yeah.
Oh,
To
interesting.
get into that.
That's the Iyengar, one of the Iyengar adjustments there is to move the skin.
Which is proprioception again, is you're asking this skin to go in a direction that it doesn't usually go in.
Right, and then advanced students actually lay back in the pose. Right. Okay, so come gently out of the pose. Lotus Padmasana. Beginning, so everybody sit on your blanket. Sitting on your blanket is critical for beginners.
It's critical for people that have pain but can get into the pose. And so reiterating that to people is important.
Lengthen the legs out in front of you, flex and point your feet. Draw the left leg back by holding on under the knee. Draw the knee back. You're going to take the opposite hand and grab the foot and cradle the knee in the elbow of the same hand, lifting the foot up. So the knee's rolled out at the hip. And it's like a baby, rock the baby. This is how you begin lotus pose. Beginners, this is how you do it. You rock that hip. You're working the range of motion across the body and open to like a happy baby type position, right? Intermediate type teaching of this pose would be to bring the foot into the crease of the opposite elbow and rock the baby here. That's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
That's funny, I feel it in my ribs.
Interesting.
It's all attached.
It's all connected.
So just rocking in that hip. The next step of this, and we're only going to go into half lotus, is to place the foot as close to the crease of the thigh, the opposite thigh, and let the knee fall away. This is it.
The other thing about this is the first leg you fold, you're pulling this heel and keeping this seal. To do this rotation, you have to be able to keep this seal as close as possible. If you open the leg up, you're not rotating the hip, you're rotating in the knee. And again, this will be reiterated on Monday night.
So the variation for beginners would be, right? That's it. Yeah. Or blankets, or just rocking the leg and then release.
And then you would do the same thing on the right side.
Let's do it. So support the knee, draw the leg back. You're going to drop the knee into the elbow. The opposite hand is going to grab the foot, and you just let that knee fall out. So when I go to it, my knee goes to my elbow. I don't try to bring my elbow to my knee. My knee goes to my elbow, which starts the hip rotation, and then I lift the foot up and I grab it, and then rock back and forth. Rock back. Then the second is to have the elbow in with the foot connected. Like a little baby.
Get this on the right side. Get it on the left.
Well, and I have a little bit of the opposite. I can do it on the left, but not the right.
There you go. One of the things is I'm actually resting my ankle. My crease hasn't unfolded, but I'm resting my heel, keeping my foot active, and I actually feel this whole hip a lot more than if I hold this. I don't feel this hip at all when I do this. If I do this, I feel it. And it's opening up places that I hadn't noticed before.
And then bring that foot close to the crease of the opposite leg. Right?
So you're saying this should stay in tight, no?
The
should
hip,
this be rolling out?
the hip will be rotating this way. In your case, it's going that way.
Right.
You can stroke this.
That's what I was
You
wondering.
can come up to somebody and you can hold onto their thigh and you can stroke it. That'll be another class, right? But you can tell people, stroke that thigh. Stroke it and let it be. Can I add one more thing when we come out of it?
When we come out of it.
Okay.
So what Lisa Ann did is sort of the next step, if to go into it, would be, because if this knee's coming in, this foot is coming closer to the body, because the half lotus would be to bring the ankle underneath the opposite knee, right? Yeah. Just so you get an idea of it, half lotus. And then to come out of the pose, you can just slide the leg out. You can guide the leg out, lengthening it.
One of the things I was taught is to hold on to the shin, hold on to the seal until the leg is parallel again. Because remember, the knee is meant to do this. It's not meant to, right, and you don't know when somebody comes out of a pose like this, you don't know what that's going to be. So I've always been rather meticulous about keep the seal till the knee is parallel to your chest and then let it slide down.
And people do get lazy. They'll just flop out.
People are so lazy in yoga.
They're lazy yogis.
And this whole thing about, if you see a really lazy class, spend most of the class, hold your ribs, breathe, because they need that oxygen and they need that blood flow.
So the knees are everybody pretty much understands what we're talking about here, is extreme positions with the knee, especially when it's out of, as Lisa Ann was saying, this. When all of a sudden I'm trying to put my knee in this position here or this position here, that's when we get to a danger zone. You want to use the props. You want to make sure you've worked with the student before. It's not like out of the blue, you're just like, go to hero pose. The next thing is twisting and lifting. We're going to do 2 more categories, and then we're going to take a break. Twisting and lifting is a personal one for me. People hurt their backs in the winter shoveling snow because they lift something heavy and twist. That's the recipe for back injury, when you lift and twist. So what do we do when beginners are in a yoga class and we do a reclining twist? We tell them in a twist to lift their legs. It's not a good idea. Let me show you. So I'm in my easy reclining twist, and the direction 99% of teachers will give is lift the knees back to center. This is a twist. My back is relaxing. It's all stretched out and divine. Now I'm asking it to contract in a twisting position and bring the knees together. Right? Now, if I have a strong core, if I'm an intermediate or advanced student, I can do this no problem, right? But if I'm a beginner, it's no good. Okay? So my direction, there's 2 ways I found that work for this. One way is I'm in a twist, and I tell people to come all the way to the same side, and then as one unit, go back. Or I'm in the twist, and you lift one leg up, and then the other. So you have gravity is working for you to come up. But I found that most people do better when I tell them, come all the way to the side and come up. So, try it. Go to a reclining twist.
I did that today,
Uh-huh.
and I had them, but I did the other thread the needle,
Right?
where I did this,
Yeah.
and then I have them drop this way, and
Right.
like this, and then I tell them to use their hand, bring the
Yes.
foot back
Use
up,
your arm, use your arm.
and I make sure that they're up and their feet are on the ground, for like
Yes,
this.
exactly.
And then when they come up.
So try all 3. Bring your knees bent to the side and try just using the core to bring the knees up. Then try going on to the same side and coming up as one unit, and then try letting the knees separate. And just notice the difference for yourself. Okay. When you've tried all 3 variations, make sure you're a little bit balanced right side and left.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when you're ready, you come over to one side, use the strength of your arms, and push yourself up to seated. Does that make sense to everybody why I'm kind of a stickler for that one? And it's one people teach easy rotated, and any twist is the same thing. People teach a lot in beginner classes, and I had it happen to me after I'd been practicing for a while. I went into that pose and I tried to bring my knees back around, and I was like, oh, that's not good, right? So be aware. So the last topic we're going to cover, so twisting and lifting, you don't want people to do it. If they're coming out of like any pose and they're twisting, you don't want them to be lifting weight. You want them to center themselves first, then lift, whatever it may be, okay? The next category that we're going to cover quickly and then take a break is back bends. Back bends are definitely a danger zone red flag, especially because a lot of women have a lot of flexibility in their lumbar spine, and they will fold a back bend by just collapsing the back body. And you can see it in pictures when someone looks like a piece of paper that was folded like that. That's what their back bend looks like, right? It shouldn't look like that. It should look like that, right? That makes sense to everybody? I can go on Instagram, I guarantee you, if we put in, like, camel pose or something, we'll pull it up and you'll see right away, you'll be like, oh my gosh. Because you want to see beyond the clothes and the skin, what would the vertebrae be doing to make that possible? And what the vertebrae are doing to make this possible is not healthy.
They're basically pushing the disc out of the way.
It's a hernia.
Yeah. They're pushing the disc
It's
out of
a
the way.
bulged disc, right? That's what that would be. Sorry,
Well,
I get excited.
I was rereading
I
something.
get
I was
excited.
rereading something, and actually, it's really hard to have a bulging disc towards the front of the body.
Yeah.
Because there's a ligament that comes down the center of the spine, and it stops the disc. It's very sturdy, and it stops the disc. But if somebody's got no core strength and they've been using other muscles, there's a very good chance that even that muscle is either atrophied or the ligament itself is stiffened. So it could easily tear, break, or have a fissure in it of some sort, which would allow the disc to go that way. Because I have heard of people having discs in this in the frontal part of the body.
So the poses that are in this category that you have the card numbers already for is camel, which is Ustrasana, wheel, right, which is full back bend, and bow, which is on the belly, right?
Has anybody done wheel?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like it?
And it does feel good for a lot of people. It's very energizing, but again, this is an intermediate or advanced type pose to do in an hour and a half or 2 hour class. It's not your hour lunchtime yoga class, and it's definitely not your beginner class. So let me show you, let's start with camel, and I'm going to show you how to teach people how to do camel safely that are beginners, okay? So first and foremost, you grab your blanket, and you want it to be open to this level here, the same because of the ankles, and come to kneel on it. Hands on the hips. So this is the first beginning learning. If somebody can't do this comfortably, this is where you're working, right? I mean, this is it. One of the great things to start with, that I like to start with, is inhaling just with the arms. Inhale up, because what does this do? This is me lifting my chest, which is the foundation of camel, right? Exhale, arms down. Getting the breath going, inhaling up. Exhaling down. One more time. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Now, a lot of times with beginners, I take it to the next level, which is going from this pose to child's pose, which actually is pretty hard to do. So inhale the arms up. Exhale, forward fold, hips go back to the heels, melt it down, arms by your side. Child's pose or embryo. Inhale, lift the hips up, come up through the spine. Open the arms overhead like a flower blossoming, and then exhale, forward fold, child's pose. 2 more times, inhaling up. And you can feel where if you roll up through the spine, opening the chest, this turns into the beginnings of camel pose. Keep it going, 2 more times. Come all the way back up. Inhale the arms out. reach through the fingertips, exhale the arms down, keep the hips up. Right? So that's the beginning, really beginning teaching the movement. The second step is tucking the toes under. Hands on the hips, tucking the toes under. If somebody can't do this, then this is what you work on, is toes tucked under, stretching through the arches of the feet. You could do it standing with a block, that sort of thing. The next step is hands on the hips, and you practice the same movement we just did, except you take out the forward fold and the arms. So it's focusing on the chest, and usually what I say to people is, the pose we're going to be doing is not a back bend. It's a chest lifting pose. So it comes from my chest here. So as I inhale, and I'll make them watch my chest, inhale, my chest lifts to the ceiling. Exhale, release. Can you see that? Inhale, lift the chest up. This is the chest breathing Lisa Ann's been talking about all class. Exhale, release. That's where the pose comes from. Okay? Now, to add this to with students, I do half camel. If they can get that far, I go half camel. So inhale, chest lifts, drop the right hand and see if you can touch the heel. Right? Lift the chest. And release. Go the other side. Inhale, lift the chest. Extend through the crown of the head. See if you can reach the heel with the left fingertip. And release, come back to center. If they can't do that, there's no point in going any further. Right?
Yeah.
Could you do it?
I hate camel.
You hate camel,
I
okay.
can't stand it. My mom loves it and I hate it.
Release the feet, tap them out.
Part of your body structure,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm real long-waisted. It's long reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so, but usually, long body, long arms.
Arms,
but
usually.
not everybody.
But not exactly. So, and the practicing the breathing and lifting the chest, this is the benefit of the pose. You know what I mean? So working on this part is fine. You don't have to go back into camel. You really don't. Now, the next part is you have to teach the student how to come out of the pose. Now, some poses, you can go into Warrior One and get out of the pose just by lengthening the legs. You're not going to hurt yourself. There's no mystery. But camel pose is a mystery to how to come out of the pose, because what happens is people go into the pose and they do one of two things. Either they hurt their low back because they're trying to muscle themselves out of the pose, or they hurt their neck because they're trying to use their neck to come out of the pose. It has nothing to do with those things. It is a spring of your arms. You turn your arm into a spring, and it has to do with your core, your abdominals. Or, it's shocking, you just sit down. It's like, I know. You just lower your butt. But people don't think of that. If you're going to have people go into camel, you need to make sure you've already taught them how to come out of it. It's one of those poses that the coming out is actually more dangerous than the going in. So watch me and listen how you can come off your knees if you want. So to come in my pose, lifting through the collarbone, and I know that there's variations about should your hips be over your knees or do you reach your hips forward. Personally, I think that I want the extension to come from the tops of my knees all the way up. I want it to be that beautiful bow. I don't want it to be all of a sudden starting at my low back. I want the whole thing to be involved, and that's what works for my body, so that's the way I'll demonstrate it. So when I'm here, to come out of the pose, I bend my elbows like springs and I push myself up. It has nothing to do, it has to do with my core too, that definitely is active, but it's not my neck, it's not my low back pushing me up. I bend my elbows and push myself up. You can do it with half camel too. Bend the elbow, push yourself up. Bend the elbow, push yourself up. It's a spring, okay? So try it. Try half camel first, Just to get the feel, tuck the toes under, hands to the hips, lift the heart, find a heel, reach the opposite arm up, bend the elbow, spring yourself up. You see how effortless? Go the other way. One hand down, other arm up, bend the elbow, spring yourself up. It's a miracle. If you want to try both and you feel your body is still warm enough, if not, don't do it. But if you want to try both, bend the elbows and spring yourself up. Okay? Yeah. It should be no struggle. I see people coming out of it. Bend the elbows, push
Well,
yourself
because
up.
you see people over exaggerate it with the neck thrown, head thrown back.
Exactly.
All worming their way up and.
Now, do you just like this because of the shoulder?
No, because of my back.
Back. Because you have the extra lumbar.
That and
Vertebrae.
I wrestled varsity when I was a freshman, when I was in high
Right.
school, and my sophomore year, my left hip is lower than my right
Yeah.
hip, and my spine is a little curved.
Curved. How is it with half camel? One arm on the heel.
I have to like fish sometimes.
Are
heel,
you back there?
Can you actually reach a block?
Probably.
Try it with a block. We want to see how that works.
And you keep the other half camel. This half camel is important because you can counterbalance that arm.
So put the block on the inside or the outside or whichever.
Just right by your ankle.
Right here.
Yeah. And
Fish for the block.
there you go.
There it
Now
is.
raise that left arm. Yeah. And just breathe there. Is that irritating?
A little bit, but not as bad as
Where's the irritation?
the whole lower back.
The lower
Yeah.
back.
Move the block closer towards your side. Does
Your
that
back.
change at all? Because I mean, basically, Anton, what you're doing,
Relax, but.
what you're doing here, Anton, is this,
Oh yeah, like
right? So there shouldn't be any irritation here because you're not doing this. You're
Yeah.
just, it's almost like a lateral diagonal stretch instead of thinking about it as a back bend
yeah,
for you.
my left side worse.
To, put another block in.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true.
Do a little higher. Yeah.
Because what you do have to do is if you can keep the pain away, but
Mhm.
hold a variation of the pose, you might be able to open up the ligaments and the fascia that have been locked down so tight
True.
all the time.
Yeah, I'll have to double block it.
Double
Yeah.
block.
Yeah, and it's like, this is that thing about the athleticism of yoga
Mhm.
is great, but when you get into the contortion poses, this is not about athleticism, this is about patience.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So just a word on wheel, again, this is an advanced pose. There's variations where you can use blocks and things like that, and we'll put this pose aside if we have time to. One class just play with advanced poses, we'll go into it, but the beginning wheel practice is bridge. So with beginners and most students, that's where you start, is where the hips lifting and then releasing the hips down. Lifting the hips, releasing them down, and building strength in the arms and shoulders, which is plank pose, and reverse plank, reverse tabletop. We did that last.
And I'm
Yeah.
just gonna show one other teeny thing. I'm not even gonna be doing the hip lift very high.
Now, my elbows are moving towards you guys, and now my shoulders have moved into the ground, so the heel of my hand is open. So just doing this, because this actually affects the neck and that upper back area, if you can keep your hands on somebody's neck and shoulders, if you get to do a private or just two people, you can play with this, because this has to be learned, because you're unfolding those elbows, and that shoulder needs to make some sort of contact to the ground, but at some point it's going to lift and open.
Last pose, and we're not going to do it, I'm just going to demonstrate it, and you're going to watch and see, is bow pose. And because I just want to show you the beginning, again, most of the students will be beginners. We're teaching you how to teach the poses. And so the first thing is laying on the belly. The second thing is Sphinx pose. The third thing would be, also is hovering the hands. This is huge. And then you have your up dog, your cobra variations, that sort of thing, right? The next thing is just practicing drawing the heel into the buttocks, right? For some people, it's like this, right? Just bending here, bending here. I like Lisa Ann's windshield wiper. That's good. So for when I'm teaching this pose, and I actually do teach camel and this one, occasionally, it's to bring the elbow underneath the shoulder and use this as a bicycle kickstand, and practice bringing the opposite heel in towards the buttocks and see if you can touch your heel. And release. Let it go. Other side, bring your elbow in under the shoulder, have a bicycle kickstand. Kick the back of the buttocks, see if you can touch the heel. And release. That's it. The other movement is pressing the pubic bone into the floor, because that's the next step, is to just practice that. You could be in Sphinx, press the pubic bone into the floor, and release, right? And then advanced is to actually grab the feet. And then my favorite is to rock side to side.
Mm-hmm.
Roll over.
And ideally,
Anything
you're just massaging the quad. You're not letting the knee rotate. The knees are still just staying stationary, but you're rocking inside your hips. It's not your knee that's rotating.
Okay, so we covered danger zones: shoulders, neck with pressure, knees, twists and lifts, and back bends, right? So let's take a break, at least 15 minutes, and then when we come back, we'll be covering low back with forward folds and groin, sciatica, hamstring, okay? I know we're covering a lot today. I know it's a lot intense. We will be on Monday's class, and when we come back from our break, I'll start handing out flyers and handouts. Monday's class, we're going to be continuing the discussion of injury prevention, injury recovery, and danger zones and anatomy on Monday's class. So I know it's a lot of information to take in, but it's really, really important.
So as far as like, oh, no.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, as far as like the volunteering for the yoga festival, I don't know if this comes in handy, but I'm going to Fresno and I'm going to Tahoe. So, I mean, if you want me to take some.
Yes, postcards, put them at the grocery, the health food store, any place like that. Do you have postcards?
I know.
You have nothing. we can give you postcards. I just had a new printing, but when are you leaving? When do you go?
I leave Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'll see if Lisa Ann has any with her right now, because I just got a new printing, and of course they're still at my house. But no, that would be great. Yes.
Okay.
As much energy out in the universe as possible.
Well, I mean, Tahoe's a like huge on like
Yoga
festivals
retreats and
yeah.
festivals.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I totally blew it when I went to Sedona. I could have been here so many times. I was like, I was just so focused on.
Yeah, well, you
doing
know.
We went to a soup dump, you know.
Everything. Well, you know, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, how do I put this? For me, sometimes, like the first year, like I didn't put it all together. And then once I saw like the start to finish, I went, oh, and now I'm like guerrilla warfare, like putting postcards in like any place that's stationary, you know. I'm like, you know, so it's one of those things. We'll catch it next time.
I have some that need to go out to, it's a doctor's office. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
holistic healing place.
Oh, those are perfect places
Yeah.
too.
So,
Well, also because it's not only people that go to that kind of place, but it's people that work there. Like there was a massage place in LA, and I dropped by and I dropped off some postcards and like, oh, there's a couple staff members that would love to come to this because that's the kind of person who's more aware.
yeah, that's
You
good.
know.
We got some up at Sam Ash in Ontario Mills, and there were like 3 guys in the recording area that were like, "Oh, I want to go." And I was like, "Cool."
Well, that's it. You know, that's it. You just don't know. So I'm gonna go get something to drink.
I have to say, I really don't realize the breaks, but today, oh my god, I thought I was gonna pass out.
That's every last week. It just depends on the day.
Yeah,
I notice if I don't get a good lunch, then I'm like that.
yeah. I had a huge. I made sure I had a huge breakfast this morning. My mom went to a fruit stand out in Redlands and got like a whole flat of like strawberries and blackberries and
Nice.
blueberries and
Yeah.
just mixed it up with oatmeal, not very much oatmeal, have just more fruit than oatmeal, and made kind of like a nice,
That sounds so good.
and then took some carrot chips and just kind of threw like a little handful of carrot chips and the like
Mm.
sliced almonds on top, and
Ooh,
yeah, it was good.
Sounds amazing.
that's good about carrot.
Yeah, carrot, because I'm vegan, so I try to,
Yeah.
you know, stay away from all the
Are
unfortunate.
you vegan?
Yeah,
How long have you been vegan for?
a little over a year and a half now.
I think I talked to you.
I've been it's taken me about 5 or 6 years to do the whole shift from, you know,
Do you miss cheese?
vegetarian, pescatarian, you know, all the way through. But
Yeah, do you miss cheese?
no, not at
No?
all, actually. After not having certain things, like even like commercials on TV, I'm like, gross how
Yeah,
people
I'm
eat
the
that.
same way. I haven't had dairy and red meat for 15 years.
Nice.
See, I don't eat meat. I don't eat fish.
Yeah.
But, and I don't really do
Fish.
dairy products, but I do eat Greek yogurt.
Oh,
And I
nice.
have an obsession with Parmesan cheese. I
Oh,
just
nice.
can't stop.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as
Love
it's not the
Parmesan
American yellow stuff, you're good.
Yeah, that's
All the
full of
processed
salt and-
Mhm.
nonsense and that stuff. Goat cheese is excellent
I
for
like
you.
goat
Mm.
cheese, yeah.
And then like the like you said, that Greek yogurt, that when I was eating it, I was getting towards the end, I was getting that Fege, F-E-G-E, that like super imported stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it at like Clark's and some of those places. But
Hey,
it's
someone
like,
just told me about Clark. I've never even heard of that. I'm
Oh,
gonna
it's
have to
Oh
amazing.
my
find out.
gosh, really?
Yeah, because I were
So
when I would go to when I lived down the hill, I would go to Sprouts or Henry's.
yeah, it's kind
And I
of the same
miss
thing.
that place so much. Like, I would go all the way to Orange County just
Oh,
like
yeah.
to go.
There's one in Chino now, right off the 71.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, right off the like if
Clark's?
you're,
Oh no, at
Sprouts.
Henry's.
Oh,
Or is it
okay.
Henry's or Sprouts?
It's a Sprouts.
It's a Sprouts.
Like if you take the 60, like you're going to
That's
LA,
where my husband works.
and then you take the 71
71.
going south, it's right there. You can see it off the freeway.
Oh, I'm gonna tell him start going there, because he just goes to Traders.
They
Yeah.
have the best muffins
Oh,
by
there's,
far.
they had that whole vegan like deli area is evil. Like you spend like $100 in there.
That place is
And then-
dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't go in there hungry. That's the
Yeah.
Well, that, my husband would do that. and-
Because they had this like vegan feta cheese with like a white cream sauce, and I was like, what? And it tasted so good. I know. And I'm like, okay, I can't come back here. 'Cause it's like $7 for like one of the little patties. You know?
Yeah. It's funny though because when you do change your diet, you slowly start getting rid of little things. Like right now, I'm not trying to eat so much gluten
Yeah.
because it's
same.
really not good for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like little things like that. And like, I don't do any milk. If I have any milk, it's horrible.
I just have almond milk, that 30
Almond milk.
calorie
Yeah, I
almond
don't
milk.
even do soy milk anymore.
Yeah, I don't. Soy milk's bad. The new soy stuff is bad for you because it's so over processed that it's.
Well,
like,
I noticed that I had it the other day and it hurt my stomach.
Yeah.
It destroyed my stomach.
Yep.
And so almond milk is the only milk I drink. And then the Greek yogurt is like, I don't have it every day. It's every once in a while.
Yeah.
But it's fine with me just
Yeah.
because I'm used to it. But
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, we used to do wine and cheese nights and I miss those.
Yeah.
But I try
Yeah.
not to because, it's not good. I mean, I would get like the Irish cheddar and
Mhm.
Gouda.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that sounds so good.
I had a friend that was addicted to like camembert stuff, and it's like camembert cheese on a cracker with like a half a glass of wine. It was like, I'm done.
Those would be dinner. That would be dinner.
Exactly, because that camembert cheese is so heavy and so rich. But I lived in Japan for a while. That was kind of when I came back from
Did you
there.
really?
Mhm. When I came back from there, that was when I was like, okay, I need to change my.
So you don't eat fish either?
Yeah, I'm done with anything with
You're done with it?
anything with a face. Pretty much, I'm kind of done. I'm just like.
So no eggs?
Well, we have a like a hobby farm, so we have ducks and chickens. They're like free range, super, they only get, they get the tops of our strawberries that we get, and, they get like full organic, like everything is, and, so we give the dogs eggs because it's good for their coats and, so
All the protein.
if you want
and
some, I'll bring some.
That'd be awesome.
We get like 8 eggs a day sometimes.
Do you really?
Yeah, and it's so overwhelming that I'm like, okay, I guess the dogs get another
I
snack.
know, I kind of want a chicken just to have eggs.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, we have 2
I
female
love
ducks
chicken.
and 7 hens. So yeah, and the duck eggs are crazy because they're just huge.
I don't think I've ever had a duck egg.
They're rich. A lot of people use them in baking because it makes it so fluffy. And I've watched, when my mom would make a cake for an event or something, and she'll use a duck egg. It's so moist. When you cut into it, you're like, whoa, such a difference.
That's crazy.
And their yolks are bright yellow.
That's funny because we normally just buy the cheapest eggs, whatever.
Yeah.
But usually I do egg whites.
Yeah.
I don't usually do the yolk, which someone totally lectured me on how I shouldn't do that the other day.
Yeah.
Because they said all the proteins in the yolk, but whatever, I like
Yeah.
egg whites.
Yeah.
And we got free range. We got them from the farmer's market. The
Oh,
eggs
nice.
from the farmer's market. And instantly when I cracked it open, it was like a neon egg.
Yeah.
It was neon. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. They're super
It's not
bright.
pale yellow. You could just see the difference.
Yep. Yeah, and you can taste it too. My dad's spoiled rotten because my mom will make him, a huge American breakfast every morning. And it'll
That's
just,
awesome.
yeah, and it's sausage and eggs and hash browns and toast and fruit.
I love good
Yeah.
breakfast.
So I got so used to not eating anything, and then when I got into the Ayurvedic healing, I've been trying to follow the doshas, and that's just that's a whole nother world.
No, what is that?
It's just based off of what your dosha is, what you should and shouldn't be eating. I shouldn't be eating peanuts, so I had to do the transfer over to almonds and different types of foods. I'm not supposed to be having hot food, spicy food,
Spicy food, yeah.
or just temperature hot food either. And it's that I love spicy food.
Yeah.
So that's my problem. Is that day I took the workshop here. We ate at the Himalayan place, and I had the spicy mushroom, awesome, and it was so good. I love sweating.
Right.
One of the best spicy foods I had ever eaten was I went to Texas, and I went to this Tex-Mex place, and they had this chili con queso that was just I was just dripping with sweat, and it tasted so good, and the spice was perfect.
Oh.
And my mom's got pictures of me, she's I'm just dripping with sweat, just eating, and it was so amazing because the mixture of the beans and the cheese, and you could tell it was real cheese, and just I love jalapeno peppers and habanero peppers. I just love that.
Yeah,
food.
I pretty much everything I eat has tapatio.
Yeah.
I'll even put tapatio on my salad.
Oh, I was putting tapatio when it was on sale on my popcorn. for a
Ooh,
while.
I bet
It was
that's
really-
good.
Spray white vinegar on it to kind of get it sticky, and then just
Get it in there?
shake it in there, and oh,
Dude, I bet that's really good.
it's so good.
I want to try that. Yeah, I started
Yeah.
putting it in my cottage cheese, and it's
Oh,
totally changed,
oh wow.
changed the world of cottage cheese.
Oh yeah, Tapatios. Yeah, people are like, you don't like what is that? The imitation
Cholula or Tabasco.
Tabasco. I'm like, no, I like my Tapatio, or it's got to be green salsa verde.
It's funny when you go to a restaurant, you're like, do you got Tapatio? They're like, no, we don't, but I got something that you'll like. And they bring me something, and I try it. I'm like,
Yeah,
sorry,
Yeah.
it's not Tapatio.
yeah.
If it ain't Tapatio, I'm
My dad used to put it on his ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and he loved it.
I think I can do that.
Yeah, and it was just he would just drizzle it on the top, you know, and eat his way through it. And he always was like, it's something about the hot, salty, sweet, like
Yeah.
together.
With some nuts. That
Yeah.
sounds
Oh yeah.
that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Man, that salad did not cut. I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
After all talking
I
about
had to quit the salads, and I just moved on to just raw veggies and just lots of them, you know.
Yeah, I stopped. I used to eat salads every night, and I'm really over it. So now I switched over to I do like a fillet of tofu,
Oh, nice.
and then I do. I'm obsessed with roasting veggies.
Oh, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so I
same
do.
thing.
My favorite is broccoli and carrots, and I just put them in a bag with a little bit of olive oil,
Nice.
lemon juice, and pepper, and
Nice.
salt, and I cook them to where they're really crispy, almost kind of burnt.
Nice.
Dude, the carrots come out. They almost taste like sweet potato fries. No
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
And they are amazing.
Yeah. I substituted the olive oil with apple cider vinegar, and then you add a little bit of that.
I have apple cider
the
vinegar.
Himalayan pink salt to it, and it kind of gives it a weird.
Does it taste
savory-
good with apple cider vinegar?
Yeah, because it gives it a little
Very,
sweet
very
tang,
funny.
kind of like mayonnaise. That
I'm gonna try that
mayonnaise-y
tonight.
tang.
I'm gonna try it tonight. With
Yeah.
the what? The carrots or the broccoli or both?
Just anything you want. Just throw, like I was doing.
So you don't do
squash.
olive oil?
No,
5
just because a lot of
years.
times when you cook
Wow.
it, it brings.
And got
brings
bored
that
and
fat
opened
out.
up the barbecue.
Yeah.
Wow.
I use
So-
olive oil a lot. I'm trying to switch
Yeah.
change over to
Because they
coconut
don't
oil,
know
but
what
it
they're
drives me
doing
crazy.
as restaurateurs.
It gets harder.
I told
Yeah.
So I have to
You
melt
go,
The
it.
taste
First,
kind of bothers me with
the
some
most
foods,
important
too.
Oh, really? Do I love
because I
try it?
said
I don't
you
know if
have
you like
ribs
it. We eat eggs,
Mhm.
coconut oil with
brisket.
eggs.
Oh, interesting.
It is. I
go,
love it.
no,
I think it's
we've
awesome.
got
Then I make it with
bread.
my rice,
I go,
brown rice.
Oh,
The first
okay.
thing you
Really
do
good.
is
Nice. Oh, that's a
every
good
day.
idea.
And I used to substitute.
You don't put what you don't
substitute.
have
I
on
would do
your
coconut
menu.
oil in the rice, and then instead of doing the two cups water, I do 1 cup water, 1 cup coconut milk.
Oh,
And
that's
it
a
would
good
make,
idea.
oh my gosh, the
That's
rice
a really
is
good idea.
amazing.
Yeah. And he makes great coleslaw. He makes a really good coleslaw. Excuse me.
It's okay.
We're noshing a little bit. So let me give out, while Lisa Ann takes a couple more bites, let me give out some handouts that will either are just for your information, or we'll be going over on Monday's class. Yoga poses for your blissful back. So this would be just a sequence of poses if you wanted to do a yoga class
Thank you.
on
More.
your blissful back.
Very.
And is there one more? What's the top pose on the second page?
Lower, upper, lower
Just
and upper.
like the
Yes.
parallel and forward fold.
Hold on. I mean, oh, you should have two, so this is the other one.
More.
So that would be, right? And then, same thing, yoga poses for your happy hips.
Happy hips.
These are awesome. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you.
Let's see. This is one page. This is the second page. And here is another page. And then here is
Big toe pose.
using yoga for injury prevention and recovery. We will be going over this on Monday.
COVID with sciatica? It's a one pager with two sides.
The stuff on Monday? All of it or just
It's either for your perusal, so that you're just aware that there's a lot of writing out there on these different things.
Okay.
But there's a good chance, especially this sciatica one,
Fire leg pose.
there's a great exercise on the sciatica that you do in row that'll help strengthen somebody's legs and buttocks. Forward bends and twists,
Yoga shouldn't hurt.
and then
There's going to be more pages on that one. Yoga shouldn't hurt.
Oh, Roger Cole, yeah.
protect your knees and arms.
He was very controversial coming out with his little book.
Yeah.
What did his, what, I didn't see it.
Oh, it was,
The yoga
yeah,
should
how
hurt.
yoga should
Oh, I
hurt.
have this one.
You have that one?
Yeah.
More than that. I'm just passing it out as I think it's like 4 pages. I'm bringing more around.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because that was the whole
The
thing. Oh, yoga's
prevention and
bad for
recovery is only 4
you.
pages, right?
Did I give you protecting knees and legs? Yes, I did. So, do that.
Hips, bends and twists, back. And that's it. Wait. Sciatica. And injury prevention. Did not get.
Protecting discs.
Yeah.
So this is the one I didn't give you, then. Protecting discs.
Oh, no, I don't have that one. Okay.
There we go.
That's what yoga should be.
So yoga shouldn't hurt is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long. The first page is yoga shouldn't hurt. The second page is deeper and back off if you feel pressure. Third page is upper hamstring tendon. Fourth page is if bending forward with straight legs. And last page is in forward bends, twists. And last one, this is one we'll be talking about on Monday, which is the trouble with touch.
I don't know if you need help copying.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Just get a nice book.
So what is, bring Roger Cole's book, I've never seen it.
I don't have it, but it was a big deal, like, what, 2 years ago? When he wrote it, and Yoga Journal, I think, published it, or someone did. And there was, I guess it was on Yoga Journal, a lot of people were posting. Saying, oh, this guy, he's trying to badmouth yoga, he's giving yoga a bad name.
He's been around for years. He's one of the
know.
first people I took anatomy from.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
Nana brought him in.
Mhm. Yeah, people start freaking out about it.
I think the thing that, when you make a statement that's like that, yoga shouldn't hurt, I think it needs to be, you know how movies have 2 titles or books have 2 titles?
Yeah.
Yoga shouldn't hurt.
Hello. Hi, can we help you? Well, their office is around the outside right here. It's right next to us, but I don't think anybody's here, but you can go next door and see. If you go around here, there's an exit right here. Sorry.
It should be, yoga shouldn't hurt, especially if you're in chronic pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Right,
yoga should make you feel better.
right.
And
Too
I
bad
think,
it wasn't phrased that way.
Mhm.
and I think that's a dynamic because, yeah, yoga's stressful sometimes. And it's actually a tool to use. But for people in chronic pain, No, yoga shouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yoga should help people who are in chronic pain.
Yeah.
But I think some of it is also what people want to get out of it.
Mhm.
Because if you're looking for acrobatics,
It's gonna
is
hurt.
going to hurt.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, look at the little girls doing gymnastics at the
Yeah,
Olympics.
I did competitive gymnastics from when I was like 5 until I was 13, and they would come by and push you down into into some of those positions, and I always got reprimanded for not being flexible enough, so I wasn't allowed to do anything.
Like it
but,
was something you
floor
could
and
do.
vault, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, I think the trend with yoga taking off so dramatically in the past 10, 15 years is, people want to go overboard with it. Like, what's his name with Bikram? I want rights to these poses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's where you are.
Hot yoga.
Yeah, hot yoga. So,
It is nice. Have you done it?
I hate it.
Do you?
I hate he's an idiot.
Oh.
I've only done it once, and it was on accident because the class I took, they didn't turn the heater off. We got into the class, and it was an hour and a half long,
Yeah,
intermediate class, and they were like, "Oh, well, it'll just be hot yoga today," and I'm like, "What? I don't want to do hot
they
yoga."
purposely made the class in Claremont,
Oh.
and it was over 110 degrees,
Ooh.
and they purposely left the steam or whatever to make it steamy,
Ooh.
to intensify it, and it was so depleting.
Yeah.
It was very bad.
Yeah.
And there'd be guys over in the corner as far away from the door because they wouldn't crack the door until halfway through class. And they would just yell at you for, you don't deviate from the pose. I'm like, what?
That's not
I
all the
wanted to
experience
have
I had with it. It was a
That one's
basic,
easier to
it's
read.
called the Santa Fe San Clemente,
Oh.
and it was awesome. Like, yeah, it was hot, and
But
yeah,
was it Bikram?
it was Bikram. It was
Really?
Bikram, but the lady who taught us, it was my first time taking it, and it's kind of like I remember taking her class because she made a point to remember my name when I was like filling out the paperwork and stuff. And throughout the class, she was like telling me, she'd come by, correct me, and she'd be like, "Good job, Jasmine," or "Hey, Jasmine, put your leg back a little bit more." Like, it was just nice.
Wow.
And the way she handled it, like, yeah, it is like a set, poses and stuff like that, but, it wasn't like really new. Like, it wasn't so good.
This is bizarre. Because you do boom, 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 and Shavasana. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Shavasana. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, what the heck? This is stupid.
Yeah, there's
So
some,
mad.
there's some eloquent Bikram teachers, and then there's other teachers that are
It's
just
like,
like,
How do you do
where did
it?
you come from?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
We had, in the last teacher training, we had somebody who took one and had a really bad experience, really bad.
I had somebody that told me that they used to take Bikram, but she did everything in her power to keep taking that class, but her muscles would go into deep spasms.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be somebody that's like a camel that holds minerals and moisture. If you're not built that way, you get depleted so fast. And she's
Like people who live
very,
in India.
Yeah.
people, well, and the temperature is hot, and Indians are some of the densest people you'll physically, if you lay your hands on them, they're very dense people. Their flesh is dense, and a great majority of them are vegetarians. So it's like, it's a body type that was built for. Just like it was a body type and a mindset that Patavi Joyce is best at training,
Yeah.
It's a dynamic of like, when have you had enough? That's really what it boils down to. When do you no longer want to learn from this person? That's really what it boils down to sometimes in that type of training, is because all of a sudden you're taking an initiative to go, I don't have to do this.
Right.
I know how to be kind to myself. I know how to treat my body, but I do need to explore every once in a while.
But I think circling back to, how people took yoga to an extreme
Right.
without knowing the real foundations
Right.
and philosophy of yoga.
Yeah.
They just want it for the exercise.
Well, the
And
West is funny that way.
yeah, we're so
We're
competitive.
We're so visual.
Yeah.
And
we
we
all
have
want to be
short
able to
atten-
do this.
Yeah, and we have short attention spans.
You know.
We have short attention spans.
Uh,
Those are huge, huge things in our culture. And they aren't in every culture. They're not in every culture. Who was it who was saying the French? somebody was making the statement that, oh, it was Michael Ricard, who's the famous Buddhist meditator, and he's French, and he said, well, the French have this saying, well, the West has this expression of like you should feel good, and the French are like, what? You should have a good life and be good, and the French are like, what for?
Why?
Why would you want to focus on that? It was a very funny TED talk that he did, and I just thought that was one of the funniest statements that the French just like, we don't want to do that.
We'd rather look good than feel good.
Right, exactly. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to go and focus on forward folds.
At least we should talk about it.
We should at least talk about them. Does anybody have any experience with forward fold where you've done too much, either in the backs of your knees, the backs of your hamstrings, your hips and your buttocks? Before I did yoga, I was just happy as a clam in this position. I could just do this forever, and I loved that position. I could walk around in it. And so forward fold is a very funny thing, but I do that now, but I do it with bent knees. My back is still very, very long, but I don't put all the tension back in here and back in here. And I also pay really close attention to the backs of my knees because the back of the knee the little pieces can get pulled apart. The dynamic for me when I'm teaching forward fold, and if you guys remember what Renee was talking about, it's, who wants to age this way?
Right.
Today I had two 12-year-old girls in this class up at Lagunitas, and I went through all of that stuff with them. I go, people age this way, and one of the girls' grandmas was there, and she was taking the class. She's like, I'm so glad you did.
Oh.
But I spent the whole 45, 50 minutes just like, we age like this, we want to age like that. And that concept, when you give that to young people, puts them in touch with something that they were never, ever given pointers for. Because Grandma was like, it's true. I can't do this. But she was ready and willing to do things. My ideas for, I have one of those blankets. If you can get somebody, a beginner, this is always beginners, if you can get somebody to sit like this is a forward fold. If you get them to push through their toes and reach through their arms, this is forward fold, but it's downward facing dog. Because you're really trying to just make sure that they're not overextending their shoulders, they're not pushing into those armpits.
So look at her
pushing the
spine.
chest.
Her spine is
It's
this
long.
versus just for exaggeration.
The other
is-
version is here. The other version is here, and you'll see more of this. But I'm seriously convinced people that this is better to practice than this, especially if they're already like this when they first sit down.
like when, I totally can relate to that, because like when I do forward fold, I collapse, and
You
It
have
feels
an
good.
amazing.
It feels good in my hamstrings and stuff. But doing this, sitting like this for like a minute or two, it works. Like
It works.
yeah,
You have fabulous posture. There's not any of, I never see you do that. I never see you do that. And that's the thing is, even for you, the extreme forward folds, I don't know where they feel good on you since the back bends are funny, but if you have tension back in here, I would go for that bent knee.
Oh, it's for the hamstrings that I bend my legs.
Yeah.
Those kill me.
This movement is a better forward fold than trying to get somebody into this. I mean, if you can get them there, my back is still long, it's still an extension from here to here. I can lift my chin a little bit. This, I'd rather not see things like this, because this makes me think that they're cutting off blood flow, or they're cutting out the flow from the brain back to the heart. So anytime you can shorten that distance, but get them to lift into their upper chest, that's what I'm like, and I see so many people that are older now that there's no point in teaching forward. When Renee taught that class, I was kind of expecting that as part of it, but because it was the whole class. Don't do forward fold. Literally, it was amazing. It's like, no, really, you don't need to do this to yourself. And when you're seeing older people or students that have been carrying book bags and binders and dragging themselves around, help them find this buoyancy. This buoyancy changes your brain. And the point of this buoyancy in the end is if you can get your body activated and lively in the upper half and breathing in this upper half of the body, it's going to change everything for that person in the long term. You know, it may take, if they come twice a week, it may take 3 months. If they come more often than that, they may do it in a month. But that's that thing is if you can inspire them to think longer and taller and less compression. And the reason that handout, you pass me the handout? I was saying this a little bit earlier, but especially when you think of the second page has the person in the middle, right? When I did forward folds, I was just really lazy in this part of my body, the woman that's folded over in that Tomasic way. And then to be able to be Rajasic is fabulous, but you want something that's somewhere in between in that Sattva thing where everything's extending because the body's not overworking itself in any way, shape, or form.
One thing, I'm not quite as anti-forward fold because I know it feels good.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, proportionately speaking, if I have an hour and 15-minute class, and except through Surya Namaskar with Uttanasana forward fold, maybe I'll do one forward fold. Whereas when I first started taking yoga classes, it would be a quarter of the class would be forward folds. Now I do and sometimes with beginning students, I won't do anything with them because they have to build the strength and the flexibility of the hips. They can't even tilt at all. But even advanced students, I might do like a Janu Shirshasana. I'm very hesitant to do the Paschimottanasana. I'm usually one leg at a time, and that's the only forward fold I do outside of sun salutations. So it's a different, if it's not, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in it, but I'm definitely scaling back the proportion of forward folds that I do in my regular classes.
So to get into any of the standing poses, you're doing step backs. Instead of coming out of like a down dog, or to do the step forward and rotate.
Yeah, I'm more apt to keep everybody on their feet and then step their leg back. and make them be more precision oriented in those standing poses. And because if you work somebody that's new to yoga in those standing poses, when they finally get on the ground, they finally actually, it's like they want it, you know? They may have wanted it when they walked in because they're just like dragging, but they're dragging because they're like this.
Right.
There's no oxygen flowing. So those standing poses, all the warrior poses, everything where you make people keep their arms out and their legs into gravity and moving into the ground and the torso breathing, you're creating this environment in their body that they're going to forget about until they've, gotten a good 20 or 30 classes under their belt. And then they're going to start to remember it just on a simple cue. It's amazing to see that. And then there's people that have true injury, frozen shoulders where they've done something and whacked it out, where it's going to be very hard to change that person's alignment unless you can work with them individually and really be on top of them constantly. So they have a different aspect.
My beginning classes are not flow classes. So my standing poses would be all from standing.
Mm-hmm.
My advanced classes, I do go through sun salutations, and then I use a wide range of ways to get in and out of the poses.
The thing that I do with beginners is I like to do things that pump and breathe people. That's my favorite thing, is exhale or inhale. Exhale or inhale. It's like I give them the permission to find out what part of the breath is working for them. This is just as if I was standing. Or even here, inhale, exhale. These are pumps. So these are moving the lymph, and you're actually trying to get them to focus on keeping the legs kind of active, keeping the knees and the toes pointed up instead of like this. Or maybe you'll see some people that have this external rotation, so getting that inner thigh to activate is really important for people like that. There's another forward fold that leads into half moon pose, because these are other danger zones, is standing straddle, hinging in the hips, and again, paying attention. If this starts to collapse, then probably the knees should bend and you should ask people to prop themselves up. Create a structure as if their body is a building, and that the arms become these struts that allow them to make the back long. That's actually tiring. Some people can straighten, but most people are going to have to keep that strut situation going. And then when you go into half moon, the reason you do all of these warrior poses is because you want to open up these muscles. If you go straight into something that's already half turned out and stretching, because I'm actually stretching right up into here right now. Right? If I keep it parallel, I'm stretching, but I'm not stretching into that groin area. I'm not over pulling it. And so if you see people that have turned in pronation or supination, that turnout, I think the people that have the turnout have the hardest time bringing their legs around and being parallel, and they'll complain the most about their ankles being uncomfortable and not being able to mobilize them. And then I wanted to bring up the problem with balancing is ideally, hopefully, you're getting people to shift their weight back and forth before you send them into any balancing type pose, tree pose, or half moon pose. You've given them something to experience their weight shifting from side to side, and also allowing the foot to strengthen. As a trainer, most people are in shoes all the time. When you put people's feet on the floor, they get to have a whole new experience of the floor. Some of them may hate it because it hurts their feet, but that experience of being on your feet and rocking back and forth, because if you close your eyes, you can actually everybody stand up for a second. if you close your eyes and don't necessarily lock your knees up, but just stand up tall, let your eyes be closed, and just breathe. And every time you breathe, your body shifts its position. Just notice that. Be sensitive to that. Get your eyes open. Everybody notice that the body's constantly trying to adjust itself and set itself up should it be thrown off balance. It's constantly looking for that. What did somebody say to me? A plane takes off from New York, it flies. All the pilots are making these little tiny adjustments because the Earth's doing this. Because they may be going in a straight line, but they're in the air, so the Earth's doing this underneath. So they're making these tiny adjustments. And I thought that was a really funny image, and that's why when you look at those maps, they're like arcs.
Yeah.
They're never straight lines across the United States. They're arcs. And basically that's what our body is doing in space, is it's creating these arcs of where is it in space. I think I've probably done enough because we've got a half hour left.
Well, can you teach briefly with forward folds? If we're teaching Paschimottanasana or Uttanasana, just briefly, what are the modifications? Like a right angle at the wall, using the blocks, a chair, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Does anybody remember what happened when Renee was here? Okay, so I'm going to refresh you. The first one is if it's a crowded room and you don't have a lot of wall space, the first thing is hips back, knees over the heels, knees bent. And then you press the hips forward. And so this is not unlike when you sit down with your sit bones and then you hinge your torso up on top of.
Oh yeah, it's more a squat.
It's a squat. You actually are coming into a squat because, again, my goal now is not to let people do this.
Yeah.
And that is it. I knew that was important because I take old people and I'll have chairs set up and they've never done this before. So I'll have them in the chairs and they'll be doing inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Inhale, reach your arms forward and keep your seat in the chair and reach with your back and your chest, and like you're holding your heart in front of your chest. And then you come back and you reach again. And then you come forward, you reach, and then you shift and lift your tush out of the chair. And then you stand up. And I may go through this I usually do 3 or 4 rounds of each movement, and then I sit back down in that chair again and come back to a neutral place. But it's the same thing in the forward fold. Don't let people do this. Try to give them a way to think of their sit bones going back behind them. You're going to be flabbergasted how many beginners are tucked under and pulled forward in the chest when they go into forward fold, which for somebody that has mobility and power is fabulous. But you really want to get people into their legs so that when they bend down and lift up and pick up things, the yoga is serving a purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the variation on the wall, if you have the wall space, I aim for the iliac crest. This is the hip. This is the top of the iliac crest, which is the back side where the glutes are all sit inside of. And then I put the hands out in front of that. And then I walk back. And that's the same movement. I can put a slight bend in the knee. I can keep it straight. Because this is more for Paschimottanasana. Seated forward fold. And then walk it back into the wall. I also like to try and let people stretch their arms out again. Right? Same pose as sitting on your sit bones. And My only bone to pick now with a lot of this stuff is that I discovered that, because I've been working with something with Parkinson's, and what he would do when he'd get out of the chair is his toes would lift up, and I go, push your toes down. He had a really hard time pushing his toes down, which probably was peripheral neuropathy, but sometimes he could do it if he focused, and sometimes he couldn't. So this movement, it's easy to lose your grip in the front of your foot, and since you're barefoot, push your toes down, because all of a sudden these muscles back here will activate. If you really push those toes down into the ground, you'll feel your back glutes do something. And then it's all the easier. You can loosen the grip on the toes and hinge back up. In a lot of yoga classes, they say don't grip the ground. I was taught that for years and years and years. Don't grip the ground. And then I'm just like, but a lot of people need to grip the ground or they're going to send their butt back, because they don't know how to send their butt back without losing that momentum on the leg. So some people really do need that instruction to keep them grounded and to help them to connect to this core.
I take a sculpt class and we have to wear our shoes, and the trainer, when we do stuff, will do, like out here, and she'll want us to have the weight and push your foot back, and sometimes I'll lose my balance backwards because I'm wearing running shoes, and the way that they're curved in the front, my toes
The
aren't on
flatter
the
the
ground.
shoe, the easier it is
Yeah.
to make that contact through the foot better. That's why I wear the skeletos. When I
Okay.
teach my water class, I wear the skeletos because I'm out on the deck. But I found that I was gifted a pair of Nikes that were just, they were, I guess they were running shoes, but they hurt my foot, like, could all get out. My arches would get all lazy, and my foot wouldn't do any work. So, and I'm not good at being completely barefoot, but at the same time, it's like I need to be able to spread my foot out onto the surface, and then I need to let my foot make contact with that surface. I'm a stickler for helping people strengthen their feet. That's my big thing, just all of these movements. So maybe
Can I add
just
one?
forward foot, you go for it.
So I'm going to show you with Lisa Ann. So classically, like Iyengar does not teach a collapsed forward fold, like what, like if I was sitting down just collapsing forward. That's not it. It's an active pose, and it's a lengthening of the spine. So I just want to give you a visual. So Lisa Ann, will you do Dandasana on the blanket? So if in the Iyengar style, how they would teach it is inhale your arms up, hold on to the belt, and it would be with a person, a partner helping them, and they would actually lift out and tilt forward. And this would be as far as they would go until the student was able to do it without them hinging from the hips and lengthening through the spine. This would be your Paschimottanasana, right? And then as the student was able to do that, can I go a little further? But I'm lifting away from her and out, and I'm helping her create and keep the flat back, right?
And the other thing this does is it makes you breathe into your chest. Even if you don't want to, you're kind of forced.
And the legs are active.
You can breathe into the belly, but you can tell you're not doing half the work.
So I want you to have that as a visual. They're not doing this forward fold. It's a lengthening of the spine, and then you practice without it. So practice without the belt, just so you have a sense. Sit down on a blanket. Everybody needs a blanket. They always do it with a blanket. Dandasana or Tadasana legs, pressing the thighs to the ground. Inhale the arms up. Lengthen out of the low back and just tilt forward. Reach through the fingertips. Too far. Yeah. There you go. Strong legs.
Yeah.
And release. Right?
I'm going to do it, don't let that breath into your ribs. There you go. Look, you just grew a half an inch. Does it hurt?
That my hamstrings is because I'm trying to keep my legs active.
Okay.
There you go. Go a little further. Repeat after with the upper ribs. And then very slowly let your shoulders extend too much. Very slowly let your legs straighten and see if the hamstring gets just as crisp.
Better,
Better, yeah.
not as like
Mhm.
abrupt.
Totally different.
Completely different.
I'm gonna need to stand
That's
on
way
blocks
different.
with you.
The reason, again, these are things that will help you pull out of
Yeah.
your lower back.
Yeah,
I'm very
I
long.
could tell right
My
away because
torso's
that
really
hip
long.
kind
So
of
long.
adjusted
Well, and it's hard
when
you're
you told me to
moderately
inhale.
height,
Yeah,
it's
so
okay
more
to do
that
it,
I'm
but what if you're somebody
understanding
who's
now
taller, then you're like,
psoas
Right,
and
right.
gradus lumborum, and there's one other muscle, it's in one of Roger Cole's things that I'm just remembering. That lengthening takes you out of that lower sacrum,
Makes sense.
lower lumbar places that they're probably pinching the
Yeah.
nerve.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Will you help
probably
me, Angela?
pinching.
Yeah.
I'm not tall enough, so you're gonna stand here like this
Mm-hmm.
and hold the belt and draw it up and then tilt it towards you,
Oh,
okay? I mean, I could figure it out, but up and then not too far up and then tilt forward.
Because you're not trying to pull your shoulders up.
How is that for you?
Good.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit further forward
Yeah.
and it's up from here.
Pull up more.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
She just needed my foot there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Take a breath into that side rib area. There you go. That creates a whole different thing.
And I feel this in my knees.
And this is, with the knees, this would be to micro bend the knees and put a roll underneath the knee.
Oh,
Would be the way to address that for people who have hypermobility in the knee. So that is a totally different working than I'm collapsing forward. So,
Sunburn?
yeah, so the part we kind of touched on is when there's been an injury, there is a physical and an emotional trauma that has occurred. And so some things are very clearly linked. You do this because it makes your knees stronger. And other things are maybe not as clear to some people in the scientific community, but helping to release energy, helping to rebuild pathways, like the opposite thing, like the shaking, letting go of pent-up energy type things. Now, Lisa and I had a very interesting conversation. I said
Ask
to
the
her,
question again.
I said, Lisa Ann, if someone came into your yoga studio, your the room, and they had an injury, but you didn't know what injury they had, what poses would you work with them on? So you just know they have some injury. What would you do? And it was very interesting. Lisa Ann's answer was she would absolutely work with the standing poses. Warrior 1, Warrior 2, because
You can see when people are listing to one side by standing. You can tell if they'll have any balance, just being in Tadasana, if their feet are making full contact with the ground. And then when they raise their arms, do the arms stay equal, even? Is one shoulder up? Does the arm want to do this? Because you'll see this a lot. People go into warrior poses and they'll do this. And I think it's because the message center in the shoulder, or whatever the injury is just saying, this feels best, because when you do this, it doesn't feel good. So you'll see this a lot in people trying to do the warrior poses. They'll never complain about it. They rarely will complain about it because they're coming because something's working for them. But it's always interesting to just see people in standing poses, because you can see where you just slice them down the middle. You can just see each side of the body, which one's dominant, which one's hurt and injured. And oftentimes the dominant side is the injured side.
And, the standing poses really are a foundation for building strength.
Yeah.
And so if they have a knee issue, if they're walking, they can do a standing pose. They can do Tadasana. They can do wide leg with the arms apart. So they're relatively safe poses, and the variations for shoulders are pretty easy. Hands to hips, hands to the shoulders, you know.
And then turning out the leg and bending the knee. And you can actually see the alignment with the heel and the toes. If the foot is overly turned out, or if the knee does that even though the foot's straight ahead, you know, or if they bend the knee but they do this, and that could be coming from up in the hip, those variations.
So my poses are
completely different.
Completely different. I would do Tadasana at the wall because that is a great pose for almost everybody. I mean, everybody to work at, because you get to lean at the wall, you get to work on rolling the shoulders back. It's a neutral pose. It's not going to hurt anybody, but it's going to give me an idea of where we're at, what we need to be working on. So the variations of Tadasana at the wall. My second one is the one Lisa Ann touched on that I really like her to try to teach, which is sitting down and standing up with control, which is basically a squat.
You mean from a chair?
Or bench, or the...
Yeah.
I just feel like it's so important because this is injury recovery. This is like, it's kind of like a micro movement, a little bit.
I think it's a huge one.
It's huge.
I've had old people like go, they'll be like in the chair and they'll be like, I'll have them done this while they're sitting in the chair, fingertips walking forward, and then I'll go, walk your hands back, and then come back up and sit back in the chair. They're still sitting in the chair, and then I go, reach your hands forward, and sit bones are in the chair still. Now push down into your feet, lift your sit bones off the chair. And they're like, some of them will struggle, but after the second try, everybody gets out of the chair. And most of them have pretty long flat backs. I think we can actually get I know we can get 2 people on this.
Someone help me with the...
But yeah, if we can get the chairs out of there, I can have you guys do it in the chairs. And I'm going to talk you through it because this is a good one for everybody.
And if you think it's easy, let me just tell you, if you think it's easy, you're doing it wrong. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm just going to give you...
Do it on the rubber of your mat.
Because I've given this to some people, and they've been like, oh, that's so easy. I'm like, I'm teaching it wrong, you're doing it wrong, because it is not that easy.
The imagery that I want to give you first is sit down in the chair, be on the edge of the chair, not with your back against the chair, and feet below the knees. And now you may want to take your fingers and feel both of your sit bones, how they're on that chair. Feel where the sit bones are.
So you want the sit bones
ground. And those sit bones, they're probably about this close. That's the other thing that you want to be aware of. Those sit bones are pretty close. So close your eyes for a minute. The image I want to give you of your sit bones is that right now, their eyes and they're closed. They're little eyeballs and they're closed on the seat of that chair. So take a deep breath in and extend your torso, your arms, and reach high. And then release the arms. And exhale that breath out. Inhale, reach the arms out. And extend them, release them back down. Everybody make their feet a little bit wider and turn. This is the only place where I would say if it feels better to have your feet turned out a little bit, turn them out a little bit. Because sometimes you need that to get this right. Inhale, reach the arms. And then reach the arms right in front of your heart. And then keep your sit bones in the chair and just reach. Yeah. Now your eyeballs are probably irritated right now. Sit back and just let your body hinge. Arms come right back up over that. Does that feel okay in that lower back for you? Because I'm checking on this one for you. Arms straight ahead forward again. Reach. Do the reach. Do the reach. Now push down into your toes. Lift those eyeballs off the chair. Now they're looking at the chair. The eyeballs are wide open. They're looking at that chair. Yeah. There you go. Now, the eyeballs are looking for the chair because they're going to sit back down on it. Sit back down on that chair. There you go. Hinge back up again. You had a very short edge there. So one more time. Reach, extend, push the toes into the ground, keep the knees over the heels. Lift those eyes off the chair. They're looking at the chair, and now what you're going to do is you're going to stand up and the eyeballs are going to close. The eyelids will close. So now the eyelids are closed. Reach your arms right out in front of your heart. Reach your sit bones, opening the eyeballs. The eyeballs are looking for that chair. Dig those toes down.
It's like a trusting game.
It is a trust game. And see, and one of the things is Jasmine's left foot likes to lift off the ground. And I don't know if it's because of the scoliosis, the curve that's in your back and stuff like that. Because it may be that there's that message into that big toe on that side doesn't make it all the way down.
I know my right leg's my go-to.
Right,
What?
go to
Yeah,
leg. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like that's
So
the
I put a
one.
lot. I always start with, even when I do squats, it's always like I always feel it on my right, and then I transfer it to my left.
Left.
Yeah.
Try it at least one more time. Just extend the arms. Inhale. Exhale. Take an inhale in, press the toes into the ground, lift the sit bones off that chair. There you go. Stand all the way up again. Eyeballs close, eyelids close. Reach forward right in front of your heart, send the sit bones, open the eyes, look for the chair. Keep the toes pushing down. There you go.
When you come forward, stay lower to the chair, because what you're doing is when you're going, what I see you doing is when you're coming up, is you're actually coming up more. You want to hover, think more of hover the chair.
You want to let those eyes see it. But see, this is that movement, and I'm learning from people by looking at people's feet if they can keep their feet embedded on the ground, because that's what I'm not really sure of. The way I was originally taught this is you put your sit bones on the wall, you rest your elbows on the back of the chair, and then you push those feet down into the floor. And you just rest on the back of the chair there, squeezing this and thinking of your sit bones either going up the wall or sliding down the wall, so that it becomes this counter thing. And I'm going to bring a page, I'll try and bring a page in, or I'll try and bring the video DVD in from the person that teaches this, so that it's available to you. Did I cover it?
Yes, you did. Because I want to just reiterate, so you see the big picture. Can I borrow your chair, Anne, please? So, because what most of us do when we come to sit in a chair is it's almost like just a controlled fall into the chair. And when we get up, it's like we're using momentum. You'll even see people, push themselves out of the chair.
If you've been in it for a long time, that's sometimes all you can do.
If they're in recline, older people are in
recliners and stuff like that. So what Lisa Ann's talking about is sitting and standing with mindfulness, with presence, with strength, that it's actually an exercise when you sit down and when you stand up. It should be with intention. I'm sitting down, my legs are waking up when I sit down, and my legs are waking up. It's like it is a squat when you stand up again. And most people are just falling back.
That's how when people move the chair, they fall.
They fall, exactly. Instead, pressing into my feet, the thighs have to press to the ground to lengthen up.
The feet have to press to the ground so that the thighs actually erect everything up on top. Just because she mentioned the word falling, I'm going to share my favorite thing is walking is organized falling. It is organized falling. It literally, as soon as you pick up one foot, you're falling in space. So sitting down in a chair has that same quality. We don't even think about that we're falling into the chair or plopping into the chair.
Plopping is another good plopping. My third pose is cat-cow, because I know even if somebody has a knee injury, I can do it standing. I can do it seated in the chair like we did last Monday. I can do cat-cow in some variation. So those were my poses.
You can do cat-cow this way if you have no other props available to you
But there's always a prop available.
And Lisa Ann's gonna teach our last pose.
Okay. This is Chakravasana. Chakravasana, sunbird. Renee had another name for this pose, but when she saw this card, she was like going, "What do they call this?" And I go, "Sunbird."
This is really great for building core strength, for getting people to have a different perspective. It helps with back strength. It helps, arm strength. I love this pose and these variations.
And because of,
Did she call it Superman?
Superman. No, because Superman, I call Superman when you're on your stomach
When
and
you're on your
bow.
stomach.
When you're in that
Oh, okay.
position.
I now call that, we had a little epiphany in class on Tuesday night. It's called super being pose.
Super being pose.
Instead of Superman or Superwoman, you're a super being pose.
Now, because we've been talking about injuries, the one thing that I want to share with you is that if you have people that are willing to be on their knees, but you realize that they're uncomfortable on their knees, this was actually given to me by a RN yoga practitioner, a woman that's a registered nurse, Leslie Bogart, who's actually married to, I can't remember his name right now. But what you do is you set a blanket, and then you would set the knee so that the knee has this sort of overhang ledge, so that somebody can actually be on their knees if they want to be on their knees, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. The way I start this is opposite hand, opposite foot, and I keep the toe and the fingers on the ground. And then again, get that chest breathing going, because that's going to strengthen their core, and then get them to lift. And they can look straight ahead or they can look down. Now, I've been playing with this a lot because I've been really into the crossing. So I've been actually doing things like this, and reaching and crossing. Exhale, inhale, lifting it up. And I've done one other variation on this. I think Anton was there when I did this one. I'm going to switch it. Reach, cross, reach, open. Which, again, the other component in twisting that you want to pay attention to is you don't want people in this position when they're twisting. You want their backs long and expanded. So if they can only reach their arm here, they're still twisting in their waist, and they've got this prop of the arm and the shoulder. They can only go so far. And then I bring it back in and twist and open. And that's a really good warm-up from cat's breath. And open. Now, if you really want to test your students, this is really hard to do. You do same arm, same leg. This is really hard to do. You might be able to get one leg up, you might be able to get the arm up, but to try and hover, I usually have to open. The only way that I can do this is not be hips square to the ground, as I have to hover. That is very difficult,
We were
and it
do that
takes.
the other night, but I realized if I could just move my foot over and kickstand it a little bit, then I can do it.
Let me see if the kickstand works.
So kickstand it in a little bit.
Kickstand in. It's
Yeah.
really hard to do. Kickstand, which is this leg. Yeah, nah. I think that's a really tough one, but it was pointed out to me when I was training with Joseph, that's a tough one. But that's why I think the twisting's so important, because if you can get somebody to lift their leg up while they're twisting opposite, they're going to be using their core, and they will strengthen over time, but that's a really hard one.
Wait, you're supposed to put your foot down?
I start with foot down. Usually what I do is I do 3 pumps that are neutral, where the hands are on the ground or to the knee, and then I do arm, leg up, and then I play with foot staying down, and if you want to reach, but I wouldn't try to lift that leg up, but you can see how much torque you're actually doing on the body when you do it that way. Yeah.
One variation Lisa Ann taught that I really like is sometimes doing it but keeping the knee bent and pressing the foot to the ceiling like you're stepping on the ceiling.
Yeah.
This is a really good one for activating the back of the leg and the buttocks, the glute. Yeah.
Yeah, and it stretches the front of the quad out also, and so that when you pull in, people might get further closer to their nose.
When you pull in, is it?
I try to aim for nose, but some people have to do fire hydrant. You know, they have to pull out. Pregnant women like this, and I just go pull your knee to your armpit, right? But you can cross it. You can take that knee and cross it to the elbow. And cross it over. All of this is about helping people understand different ways of twisting in their body without actually putting them into hard twisting action.
And these are great for building strength in the arms.
Yeah.
These are great for working on flexibility in the spine, the core. I mean, some people, when I get them in here and I have them in this and I start moving their legs, I mean, their arms are shaking. They're shaking. So on that note, let's just come to a comfortable seated position. We're just going to close class with a few breaths, and then we'll do a Svarupa Yoga Seal. I'm just going to turn these. So there's a lot of information discussed, reviewed, learned.
We're going to cover it again on Monday on some
we'll be
level.
covering things again. There's time to digest and process it. Just coming to that comfortable seated position. Allow your hands to rest wherever it works for you. Close your eyes. Take a few breaths with soft lips, relaxed throat. Know that you don't have to know everything. Like, let's say, aware level. You can know things in your gut, you can know things in the back of your mind, and that all of that information is available to you at any moment, like universal information. But just the fact that you heard it, you saw it, you practiced it, it will be available to you when you need it. A few grounding breaths there. Creating space to transition to the evening. Reach your fingertips. And the palms of the hands together. And the hands in front of the heart. So much. We're going to end with a seal. So gently opening your eyes. You're going to make a fist, but you're going to keep your thumbs. Hold on. I guess you can do either way. But for this, let's tuck the thumbs in. You're going to bring the fists right into the crease of where the legs and the torso meet. Let the elbows relax at the sides and fold forward.
As long as you enjoy the seal, and after you're done.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
We'll see you Monday. Reminder, no class next Saturday.
A class on Monday.
Class on Monday. And can we have one or two volunteers to reach out to the two students who didn't come today and give them some notes? Does anybody have good notes and have a minute to type up?
I remind them that the class was videoed, but it'll be something they can listen to more than see.